Hey, howdy ho, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
And man, oh man, coincidentally enough, on the night of the Golden Globes, we are here to count down our top 25 favorite movies of 2019. Dragon, it's been a hell of a year, hasn't it?
That it has. That it has.
2019 just kind of came out like right at the end of the decade. I thought 2010 was an excellent start to the decade. 2010 gave us some real landmarks like The Social Network and Inception and Toy Story 3, among others, really kind of set the groundwork for a great decade. And then 2019 just comes along and just bookends the decade in just a beautiful way. And Dragon, I'm excited for our two concurrent lists, because I feel like our lists are going to kind of be like, you are much more leaning, with your own specific focuses and whatnot, you are leaning more towards the popular side of things, the superheroes, the genre pieces. Your list is kind of like the people's list, if you will, Dragon. And my list, I don't want to spoil anything, but let's just say my top 10. Not a lot of IP in my top 10, Dragon. Not a lot of IP in my top 10. That's all I'm going to say. So my list is much more kind of like my own sort of like what drove my creative passions and what sort of sparked my imagination. And this year, a lot of what sparked my imagination is stuff that I've never seen on film before. So while we, of course, both have our Avengers Endgames and our Toy Story 4s and our Shazams, to name a few of the movies that you and I have on each other's list, we both share. Dragon, I think my list is going to be much more focused on those kind of like big think piece movies. But I'm not saying that either one of us is wrong for leaning each way or the other. I'm saying that's the beauty of film, and I'm glad that I've got you on board to kind of have, these two sort of dueling perspectives on the air. It's going to be fun.
And now, of course, something we should address right out the gate is, of course, this being a really good year for film. And of course, with us starting our new show this year, movie memoirs, we were really encouraged to see a lot of movies this year without realizing the drawback that when we get to the end of the year and we do like kind of our listing of all the movies we saw, that might present a little bit of a difficy. So we had to cap it off this year. We kind of lost perspective on that one. So I saw like a smidge over 80 movies this year.
Yeah, I want to say I saw close to 90, Dragon. But
yeah, I know you saw
count,
more because you.
I count more like theatrical stuff. I mean, obviously stuff like Marriage Story and The Irishman. I'm going to count for.
Well, I counted everything that is feature length. So that's me.
And this is a discussion that we're always going to have in terms of like what's eligible and not eligible for the list.
I think everything should be eligible so long as it's a film, and the point being we've been down that road before. You know what? The point being we had to cap it off at kind of the top 25. So I want to preface. I don't know about you, Tiki, but the way I kind of looked at it is, these are the top 25, the creme de la creme out of like 80 or 90 in our cases of what we saw. Of course, we didn't see everything. We wanted to see everything. Tiki saw more.
There's definitely, Dragon, can I just kind of do a really fast bullet point on some of the stuff I didn't get around to seeing?
Yeah, sure, real fast, yeah.
I really want to see Booksmart. I never got a chance to sit down with that. I've heard great things about it. That's one I'm almost pretty confident actually would probably make it onto my top 25 if I did see it. I do want to see Little Women. I didn't actually get around to seeing Little Women, Dragon. I've been having health issues, and considering that I was scheduled to see Little Women today actually, but considering that we had this to do, I really didn't want to work, then see Little Women, then do this. So, kind of had to take a sacrifice there. I've been hearing excellent things about this little independent French film called Portrait of a Lady on Fire that people have been raving about, and I definitely want to check that out. And I guess the only other thing in theaters that's coming out that I think is maybe on my radar is the Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan movie Just Mercy. So other than that, Dragon, I feel pretty confident in the list in terms of like I've seen pretty much everything that I've wanted to see. And granted, you also have some stuff on your list that I haven't gotten around to yet. I'll cite that when we get there. But suffice to say, I will say this, Dragon. I will say this. My 25 through 21, not to knock any of them, they made the list for the reason. They're all good films for sure. But Dragon, I gotta say, my top 20 is when things kind of really start getting serious. So it almost kind of makes like that 25 through 21 spot almost an extended honorable mentions, because there's kind of a jump once we get to my number 20. So that's all the preface I have. All right, so I guess, Dragon, we should start with honorable and dishonorable mentions.
Yeah, so folks, as I mentioned, we kind of had to cap it off at 25, but what we're going to do, just going to give you the full effect. We're going to give, each of us, we're going to give like what the absolute worst movie we saw this year was, and the honorable mention that we really, really wanted to make the final cut, but it was missed it by that much. We want to shout out a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so my honorable mention, Dragon, and honestly, if I would have seen this, if I had more time to marinate on it, I literally just saw this like 2 days ago. It might make the list. I think it has excellent performances. I think it's got a gripping story. It's maybe a little bit too current and political for my taste. But I'm going to go with Bombshell for my honorable mention. Bombshell really almost made the list.
Now, funny you mention that, because the two movies, basically, I did a lot of really good catch-up this year, and I pretty much caught later what I really wanted to see that I didn't get a chance to see in theaters or so-and-so. And what the two that I missed, the two I really wanted to see was Bombshell and 1917. Those are the two I missed out on. So I'm with you there. It sounds like a good one.
Yeah, Bombshell, of course, the big highlight for me is Lithgow. But I mean, not to dismiss the three leading actresses, because they all do a fantastic job. Specifically, everyone's talking about Charlize Theron, and she's great. But I really think Nicole Kidman, she was my standout. She really, I really kind of emphasized with her the most. She was kind of like the most compelling story of the movie, I thought. So just great performances all around. Like I said, my only real issue with it is just it almost kind of felt like a really high budget, reenactment, less of a movie, just because this stuff literally just happened, Dragon. Like, it's so odd that we're already getting biopics about stuff that happened in 2016. So, but I mean, other than that factor, I think this is going to age well. I feel like 10 years from now, people might look back on this the same way they look back on something like The Social Network, or Network itself. I just have to give it time to marinate. And unfortunately, like I said, I saw it about 48 hours ago, so I haven't really had time to marinate on it. But very, very good flick. I'm sure it'll get nominated for a lot of acting Oscars, and it deserves it.
All right, so my honorable mention then.
All right, really quick, we got Claude Karenga in the comments there. Hey, Claude, glad to see you. Hey. We got Pink Pearl here. Pink Pearl says, so many choices, Frozen 2, Abominable, Aladdin, How to Train Your Dragon 3, ending thinking capacity. There's more, but my head hurts. Let's see. Claude says 2019 was a great year for movies and shows. The 2010s was a great decade for movies, shows, and animation. I totally agree with you, Claude. I think the 2010s. I think it was definitely a step up from the 2000s in general, on both fronts. Okay, and also Donovan was here earlier. I'm not sure if he's in here now, but he says, my list is so long. I love Frozen 2, How to Train Your Dragon 3, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Joker, Endgame, Shazam, Uncut Gems, Fighting with My Family, Far From Home, etc. Etc.
Etc.
Hey guys, where's my movie? Etc. I'm gonna have to tell on you, because my movie is not on either.
Poor Hedwig. Poor Hedwig. Anywho. Yes, but seriously, folks, thanks so much for joining us. We're gonna love having you along for the ride here. So my honorable mention is Long Shot. So funny. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I've wanted to see Long Shot, especially after we saw The Night Before for Seasonal Shenanigans.
Yes, the other Jonathan Levine, basically it's Jonathan Levine's taking a stab at the rom com, and it's way better than I expected. I mean, I was a movie that was like, oh, that looks kind of charming, and I eventually got a chance to see. It's like, oh my god, this is really good. I love it. Just sounds so simple in the day and age we're living in, but it's like a non-offensive political comedy. I mean, like we have like we're taking stabs, but at no one in particular. It's just like we're just taking it's like taking the few stabs at politics, but it's really about the chemistry of Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron. In terms of the political stuff, the funniest thing is again, there's a number it's not offensive, but it's a funny kind of observation. Like Bob Odenkirk plays the president in
Oh
Long
man.
Shot. And the idea, the premise is that Bob Odenkirk was an actor on TV who played president in a TV show who eventually got elected president in real life. And it's hysterical. Basically, he wants to go back to acting, which is why she's she's essentially trying to run for president. It's wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Anyways, seriously, I highly recommend the Long Shot. It was just a complete surprise for me this year that I loved it as much as I did, and I just kind of kept going back to it. Basically, it subverts a lot of cliches. It's kind of Jonathan Levine's style, man. He likes to subvert a lot of cliches. He really gets a lot of like just kind of a genuine humor in there. Again, it loves working with Seth Rogen, and it shows. There's like one cliche, but it's kind of basically it's an earned cliche at that point. It's like not till like towards the end of the movie. They do it really well. The ending of the movie though is really hilarious. I'll tell you that much. Point being, folks, check out Long Shot, man. It's an underrated gem. Check it out.
An underrated gem?
I know. I'm saving it for the other one.
All right. Also, we got Inhuman Quake in here. He says Joker is my favorite as well as Far From Home. We'll definitely be touching on both of those. Inhuman Quake, happy to see ya. So Dragon, dishonorable mentions. Man, I thought long and hard about this one.
I didn't.
Because, I mean, here's the thing. I've seen some shit this year, man. And honestly, Dragon, my dishonorable mention, it comes down to two movies. All right, two movies that are both almost entirely in CG, that both are musicals, and that both star, famous actors that are too good for the material, and both have an uncanny CG look to them. Dragon, I can't decide, Cats or The Lion King.
You probably want to go with Cats.
No, Dragon, I don't want to let The Lion King off the hook, though. All right.
I don't look. I'm saying I think they're both valid options for a dishonorable mention. But
Cats is going to be a famously bad movie. All right, Cats is going to be a famously bad movie. I myself didn't really think it was that entertaining on a so bad it's good level, but I'm in the minority there. But Dragon, I don't know, man. When it comes to just a really, really bad movie theater experience, that just I just feel like Dragon. Let's just put this into perspective here, okay? All those classic beloved Disney movies that you loved as a kid, all right? All of them, Dragon. Lion King 2019 made more money. Yeah. I just think from a political point of view, I kind of put my foot down. Inhuman Quake, I'm not saying it's a bad movie, all right? I'm not saying it's a bad movie.
Tiki, technically we are saying it's a bad movie. We're in the dishonorable mentions thing. You're talking about like the
I'm
very
saying
bottom.
This movie doesn't need to exist, and I'm really cynical when something like this, I don't know. I mean, I'm really cynical when something like this succeeds as much as it does, Dragon. I don't know. Right. More power to you, Inhuman Quake, for liking it. I'm not trying to trash your opinions, of course. I knew that picking it would kind of step on some toes, potentially. But yes, let's all just point and make fun of Cats, though. Cats is ridiculous. You got Amy Schumer eating, or not Amy Schumer, Jesus Christ. You got Rebel Wilson eating cockroaches.
How did you confuse those two, man?
I get those two confused more often than you would think, Dragon.
I mean, they're both not great, but still, it's...
Inhuman Quake, Aladdin, I would actually probably lean more towards my honorable mentions, because I thought that one was actually probably among my favorite of the live action remakes we've had so far. I'm not a big fan of any of them, honestly, but Aladdin was one of the more competently made ones, and I dug Will Smith Genie. I think Will Smith Genie really worked. Anyways, Dragon, your dishonorable mention,
Okay,
and I know. Can I just say I know that I know your dishonorable mention in terms of overall movies that you watched this year, like not counting 2019 movies, but just of all the movies that you watched this year. I'm sure the one that you hated the most was Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas, right?
Well, I mean,
we just have to give a moment to you watching Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas.
If it were just for like within the decade, let's say that I've seen, like point being, Kirk Cameron Saving Christmas, of the movies I checked out this year was the worst. Yeah, of the movies I checked out this year, yeah.
Okay, but 2019, Dragon, 2019.
Yeah. 2019. Okay, seriously though, 2019. Let me put it this way: there are three contenders, but easily though I can easily cite. It's also a Disney movie, believe it or not. For this I'll mention is Kim Possible.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a solid.
Like the contenders were Kim Possible, Cold Pursuit, and Men in Black International. Those were the three contenders, and Kim Possible easily gets it. Yeah, it gets it because that's the most personal. That's the most personal, just kind of hurt that you can feel, really. Because I love Kim Possible, man, I do. And I mean, just when you think about it, I mean, the best thing I can say about the movie is, Todd Stashwick, and a few of the casting choices could have worked, man. Sean Gambroni's Ron Stoppel, solid casting.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, like Shigo and Draken, again, casting wise, not bad. We didn't make them blue, baffles me. I don't care if it's blue veins, doesn't count. My point is just that beyond just the surface level things, I mean, they got things fundamentally wrong. And here's why easily, this is what clinches it, Tiki. They had the same crew working on it. The creators of Kim Possible had hands on this, man. That's the biggest insult of all, man. Like, really, these are the guys that crafted some of the greatest moments from Disney TV program. I'm talking like for me, like Buzz Lightyear, Star Command, Kim Possible, same guys. Right now, Big Hero 6, they're doing well. Yet they do this. And it just went so wrong. And like seeing how successful Disney is right now, there's no excuse for any of this. But
okay, well, Claude Karinga at least disagrees with you on the Kraken and Shigo bit. He says they were really well casted.
Well, that's what I just said. I said they were well casted.
Oh, sorry.
So I'm saying Draken, Shigo, and essentially the cast and Ron Stoppel, that was like the saving graces of the movie. Everything else, though, that's what I'm talking about. That's
okay. And Inhuman Quake also agrees with you. It ruined my childhood.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Also, Claude Karinga asks, where would you place Dora in the Lost City of Gold? Claude, honestly, that's a solid honorable mention, Claude. It really is. That one really surprised me. I have very little bad things to say about that movie.
And Claude brings up another point. Like, what if he had like a malfunctioning invention that actually turned his skin blue? See, that one I would appreciate because we give like the long lost origin. Like, how the heck did he turn blue?
Again, I let me just take the time to say I finished Watchmen today, so blue skinned people are on the mind.
Oh yeah,
blue hands specifically. Dragon shots of blue hands.
I know you're talking about. Anyway, regardless, I mean, the fact, like Mr. Barkin, for example, like there's no reason on God's green earth they couldn't have gotten Patrick Warburton to play him in live action, or at the very least, they made him like a big guy in a cat sweater. That's not Mr. Barkin at all. The point being, they missed the ball completely on Kim Possible. It really hurts anytime I think about it. She turns into a whiny baby. Someone's better than me. That's not Kim Possible at all, man. I don't. It's just it hurts me to think about that movie. Let's move on to better things with our count.
Greener pastures. All right. So Dragon, like I said, my 25 through 21, more honorable mentions than anything else. I really want to emphasize the top 20 here. But like I said, honorable mentions, like in a year where I saw pretty much like over 100 movies, and I thought a lot of them were great. This is still pretty solid ranking. So without further ado, number 25, Dragon. This is a movie that I wasn't crazy about initially. It had good parts and bad parts to it for me. But honestly, upon thinking about it more and upon watching the original film again, I really came away with a lot of respect for this one And I think it's a shame that it flopped because I think it's a great example of blockbuster horror. My 25 Dragon is Dr. Sleep.
Okay.
So yeah, not much to say here. I just say, honestly, Dragon, the movie still does kind of fall apart in the last 10 minutes with like the member berries fan service it gets a little bit out of control. But man, for 90% of this movie, it really holds up as a film that, references The Shining and is obviously a continuation of The Shining, but doesn't lean on The Shining too much to the point where it's just a big nostalgia fest. This is its own story, and it's a very Stephen King story. I think Rebecca Ferguson absolutely shines as the main villain. I think she is honestly one of the better villains of 2019. And Ewan McGregor makes a fantastic hero, makes a fantastic grown Danny Torrance. He's got a great back and forth dynamic with the kid who has the Shining. We see the Shining ability explored in some really interesting ways. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I do think the last 10 minutes or so really kind of it really doesn't stick to landing. It really does become like, hey, remember the twins? Remember room 237? Remember the axe? Remember the hedge maze? But before that part, it really does hold up as a very, very solid original Stephen King adaptation. I would say Dragon, far and away the best Stephen King movie of this year, after the relatively disappointing It Chapter 2 and Pet Sematary. This one blows both of those out of the water.
Yeah. Well, don't forget to put the number on the screen, Tiki.
What number? What?
Remember the whole the title and the number on the screen. So
I don't have that prepared. I'm sorry.
All right.
If you want, I can get that prepared while you talk about your number 25.
Meant for yours as well, Tiki. They're going to go back and forth with the thing.
Well, I don't have it. Go ahead. All
right. Okay, so on to my 25. My number 25.
Dragon, I'm sorry. How are we going to do this? Because I don't, do you want me to just put up, number 1 or, number 25?
Well, if you want, the simple res, just you type in 25 so people know where we're at if they're looking in the thing. I thought you were going to go the full title. If you want to go number 25, let's just do that. It's simple.
Okay, let's just go 25. Let's just go the numbers, all right?
Then you just put the banner of the number on the screen so we know where we're at. That's all.
Okay.
All right, so that's, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to undercut anything on Dr. Sleep. We're going to move on to mine?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, on to mine. So, my number 25 is a little movie called Madness in the Method.
This is one that I did want to see for sure.
Yeah, so again, folks, I want to make it clear. Again, we're in the upper echelon here. Again, this is even though I've ranked it low, a lot of love for this movie. All the top 25 picks, just a lot of love for him. This is Jason Mewes' directorial.
Can I suggest on color, Dragon, really quick? Sorry.
Green. Green's okay.
Does green work?
Do you like green? Whatever color you want, Tig, it's fine.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Anyway, it's Madness Method. So Jason Mewes' directorial debut. So it came down to this or Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which would have been another honorable mention, but I had to get Long Shot in there. So the point being, that's kind of where it's at. Right behind Long Shot is Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Anyway. At the end of the day, though, Madness in the Method, it's a little bit more than the feel-good cameo fest that Jay and Silent Bob reboot is. I don't mean that in a negative way. It's a feel-good cameo fest that Jay and Silent Bob reboot. It's a nice little reflection on Kevin Smith's career. But what this movie has going for it, man, is this is a clever meta-examination of Jason Mewes trying to hang his own shingle outside of the works of Kevin Smith, which is a real-life thing, which, he's done other things outside of Kevin Smith. Again, the movie, for example, he's directing it. All Jason Mewes, all kind of a passion project to this guy. He's come a long way. It's kind of the perfect companion to those famed podcasts of the Jay and Silent Bob Get Old podcast, especially those first 6 episodes where you hear about the drug addiction and kind of the recovery. And it's an inspiring story. This is kind of the perfect companion piece of that. It's kind of like the end of that story, one could say, the real ending of that story. Years later, he's just trying to get his own stuff done. And it basically, imagine you have that story, but it takes a dark turn via this method acting book that he finds. He basically tries to do method acting, kind of tries to go the full Jared Leto, if you will.
Oh God!
And it leads to a really great dark comedy. It has a great cast, and you have Vinnie Jones, the wonderful Vinnie Jones of Gallivant fame, as well as various other.
It's not a thing.
It's not a thing. Oh, God bless Vinnie Jones. I love Vinnie Jones. He has a big role, and he's Jason Mewes'. Essentially, they met each other while they were in recovery, and they're buddies. It's awesome.
Oh, cool.
So you have Vinnie Jones, you have Gina Carano. She plays Jay's wife in the movie. Of course, Jason Mewes is married in real life, so she plays the fictionalized version of that. And, of course, a big thing for this movie, this is the last cinematic Stan Lee cameo. This is the last Stan Lee cameo he's ever shot.
Man.
Well, I understand. At least the last one that came out, in terms of like when it was. The point being, this is the last one you're probably ever going to see of Stan Lee again. Is in this movie. And so again, it's a dark comedy. It's a strong debut for Mewes. I highly recommend it. It's definitely gotten overlooked. I think more people need to check this out. It's on Amazon for anyone for rental at the moment, but definitely worth checking out, folks. If you're a Kevin Smith fan or a Jay and Silent Bob fan, you absolutely have to check this out. It's meta in all the right ways.
Okay. All right. I do want to check it out for sure, Dragon. All right. Getting into my number 24. This is a follow-up film to something that came out just last year that was really, really well regarded. And I liked a lot as well. It was a very hard to watch film, and this is also a very hard to watch film. So we're just going to get right into it. Midsommar. Oh, man. Midsommar is just kind of like a drug trip of a movie in a lot of ways, Dragon. It's literally, it's like shot to be like a drug trip. The whole thing takes place in this Swedish hippie commune and in this cult. Dragon, you would hate it because it's the cultiest movie to have ever culted, at least in the 2010s.
You know how I feel about cults.
This is the ultimate 2010s cult movie, Dragon. It really is. But yeah, Midsommar, the big reason why I have it on the list is Florence Pugh, man. Say what you will about the movie. I was a little bit mixed on the movie. I think the film it definitely has pacing issues, to say the least. A lot of it really drags out. It's much more of an experience than it is an actual, front to bottom narrative. But Florence Pugh just absolutely kills it in the main role. And to me, she is just one of the most memorable characters of 2019 and most memorable performances. And Ari Aster just has this way with his, of his female leads. Of course, last year with Toni Collette, people were, screaming foul when Toni Collette didn't get nominated for an Oscar. And while I don't think this is quite Toni Collette level, it still is just a great sort of like milestone in Florence Pugh's just kind of like marathon of 2019. We're not going to talk about Little Women on this list, but I've heard that Little Women's fantastic as well. We are going to talk about Fighting with My Family coming up. Florence Pugh's just had a banner year. All right.
That she has. She's definitely earning she's definitely earned that Black Widow role this year. Just putting in her dues, man. That Florence, give her a Marvel thing. It's awesome.
Yeah, and sorry, Dragon, I'm really not. This banner thing is throwing me off. But okay, I'm gonna throw it back to you, Dragon. What is your number 24?
My number 24, and I hope that our commenters don't kill me here, because again, folks, I want to emphasize top 25 still place honor here. I wanted to rank this higher, but at the end of the day, let me tell you what it is. Dolomite Is My Name. So, Dolomite Is My Name this is Eddie Murphy's kind of epic return in a biopic about Rudy Ray Moore. Rudy Ray Moore, essentially, this is kind of the simple way of putting it, this is a blaxploitation Ed Wood story. This is kind of like the Ed Wood of blaxploitation. In that, this is the guy who kind of worked his way into the genre. He was kind of it's the story of a guy who builds a persona. It's kind of like an amateur performer. Like he loves music, he loves comedy. He just doesn't quite have like the X factor yet. And he kind of hears these famed stories about Dolomite. And he essentially he builds the persona of Dolomite. Like, that's a stage character. He dresses up like Dolomite. He's on the stage, and essentially this turns into like kind of a regular comedy thing for him. Basically, turns the old Dolomite stories into an act, which leads to records, which leads essentially to he builds a business off of Dolomite, and eventually this leads to kind of indie filmmaking. That's when we hit the full Ed Wood of it all. It's kind of like maybe halfway through the movie. For the rest of the movie, we get to the indie film section of it all, where we really enter the world of blaxploitation. Like Keegan-Michael Key enters the fray as the writer, and he's great. Wesley Snipes, he plays the director. Which is really funny. Basically, he's an actor they won for the movie. Probably had played, if not Dolomite, then one of the other actors in the movie. And he turned it down and says, "What if I told you could direct?" He says, "Okay, I'm listening." Everyone wants to direct. That's Anyway, so apparently, even because Dolomite had like kind of a rhythm about him, I want to say I'm not going to say something as reckless as like he was the originator of rap, but apparently he kind of got. They called him. I heard he's one of Rudy Ray Moore's credits. One of his nicknames is kind of he's the godfather of rap. And Dolomite, when I think about it in the movie, he does have kind of that thing where he has like all the catchphrase and has kind of that essentially it's kind of like archaic rap, let's call it. Or basically, he's kind of like rapping to the folks, but it's not musical. It doesn't have like it's not like they don't know what it's called yet. It's that early on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's kind of points a lot of interesting things to kind of take away from the movie, but it's I'll admit this movie it's not for everyone, but it is very good. I highly recommend checking it out. It's on Netflix. It's got a great performance. This is like Eddie Murphy back in a big way. Apparently, it's like the second R-rated movie he's ever done. It's the only thing that holds it back, the only reason it's really kind of ranked so low, again, high comparative to the 80 movies, but the reason it's kind of ranked at 24 here is because, I don't feel as compelling. A little fun fact, the same Ed Wood writers did this too, so that's why it has such an Ed Wood vibe, same writers. I don't think I'd revisit this as I would Ed Wood. It's a stylistic thing. I don't know. I kind of like, Ed Wood has it has a little bit more going for it than this, and maybe not a fair comparison. I feel the Ed Wood and the DNA might have made for that. Regardless,
to me, from everything I've heard about this, it sounds more straightforward than Ed Wood was, because to me, what really cements Ed Wood is that kind of like oddball friendship between him and Lugosi. And it doesn't seem like there's an anchor to this movie in the same way that there was with Wood and Lugosi in that movie. Am I on the money?
Yeah,
with that?
let me put it this way: there is a friendship, but it's no Lugosi and Ed Wood. No, it's not. They're not like a big tentpole friendship. Basically, there's this woman in the movie that he kind of meets at a bar, and she comes kind of like a famed extra. And there's a beautiful scene between them towards the end of the movie. In the big, basically, it all builds like them going to the premiere. Bob Odenkirk's in this too. He kind of helps out in a big way in this movie. He's kind of essentially like the film, if not the producer, he's like a promoter. He kind of helps get the movie in theaters. That's kind of Bob Odenkirk's role. And yeah, like there's a nice scene of limo between them, but it's really it's just that's the thing. It's like not quite Ed Wood, but it definitely feels like it's coming from good stock like Ed Wood. So definitely it was a highlight of 2019. Make no mistakes. It was definitely belongs in the upper echelon of listening. It deserves all the praise that it's getting. Okay.
Cool. Yeah, and the commenters are definitely on board with Dolomite. I need to see it for myself for sure. I will say that one of my highlights of 2019 from a TV level was seeing Eddie Murphy return to SNL, Dragon. That was a thrill. Okay, number 23, Dragon. Number 23. Don't call him a hooker because he can't afford hooks. It's Serenity.
Are you kidding me?
Serenity
really?
Made the list.
Oh my god! You put I don't believe. For crying! Okay, tell the folks what Serenity is.
How many years, Jack?
Yeah. Oh god.
Serenity is one of the most fun, so bad it's good movies of the decade, folks. I went to the theaters to see this twice. The first time, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just thought I was getting some sort of weird, like, neo-noir Matthew McConaughey fish movie. I had no idea it was going to go down the what the fuck Shyamalan route. And, man, I went back a second time just to soak it all in. And that weekend was glorious, Dragon. It's one of my favorite memories of 2019 in the movie theater. Serenity is a batshit crazy movie. It doesn't really hold any water conceptually. The script is terrible. The performances are super cheesy and over the top. But man, Dragon, I have a lot of nostalgia for this one. Just going back to January of 2019. And this one was so much fun. I feel like without Serenity, Dragon, I don't think our first movie memoirs would have been as fun as it was, because a lot of the fun from that conversation came from this movie. So, yeah, I really do think, just for the so bad it's good of it all, Serenity really does deserve a spot on my list. Dragon, you kind of secondhand experienced this movie.
Yes, I absolutely secondhand experienced this movie. In that, literally, Tiki explained it kind of Scott Mosier, Kevin Smith style here, where basically he told me every plot point, what happens in the movie, and I was stupid enough to sit through it. just silly, just utter silliness. But also our commenters here, they made the excellent point here. Eddie Murphy's got Coming to America 2, which they announced on SNL, and apparently the director of Dolomite is doing Coming to America 2, which is that's nice.
Nice.
Now I forget Eddie Murphy. I don't think Coming to America is going to be on Netflix. But I know I heard he has something coming on Netflix, which I want to say is Beverly Hills Cops 4 or Coming to America 2. I think it's Beverly Hills Cops 4.
I just want a stand-up special, man.
Great. I'm saying he's doing a lot of Netflix content, so I think the answer looks good, Tiki. I think it looks good for doing a stand-up special. I mean, if he's doing all these epic returns, like he has to.
Red jacket, Dragon.
That's what I'm saying, Tiki. I'm saying, like, if he's doing all these epic returns, the form, he's got to put on the red. He's got to put on. He's got to come back. All right, so on to my 23 then.
Yeah, you're number 23, Dragon. What is it?
Detective Pikachu, or Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Okay, I was happy to see this one on your list, Dragon. It didn't quite crack my honorable mentions, but I did like it quite a bit. And Dragon, if I was like a teenager when this movie came out, it would have been my favorite movie of all time. All right,
I believe it.
So.
Well, yeah, Detective Pikachu. Look, this is a really fun movie. I honestly, I would have just checked it out if I wasn't already a casual Pokemon fan. I would have checked it out for Ryan Reynolds alone. Just the idea of Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu, because that's Ryan Reynolds as Pikachu and a detective movie. Those three elements. That's what sold me in the first place. And it's Pokemon. And honestly, that's the thing. I love the world building. I love seeing Pokemon realized in essentially our world. That's really great. Again, my favorite moment, my favorite like deep cut Pokemon thing in the movie. It sounds like it's probably like a very like a surface level cut, let's call it. But I just think the thing that always the biggest touchdown being playing the Pokemon games, playing like the Game Boy games for Pokemon. When you throw that Pokeball, you think you caught it, and and just it comes out like that. I've been there so many times. That was the most fan moment I had in the whole thing right there when that happened right at the start. Regardless. This is point being. This is a fun movie. I rewatched it recently. I basically still a lot of fun. Unfortunately, though, on the rewatch especially, it does not hold up as well. It basically there's some annoying plot holes in the mystery. Mainly, there's this one plot hole that it's not that it doesn't sink the movie, but it's just it really hurts. In a mystery movie, if one of your big mystery elements, like the whole thing, when we go to Yoshida's office, when we go to Ken Watanabe's character's office, and again, it's the very simple thing of like, okay, the Pikachu's alive, his father might be alive, and we're not going to reopen the investigation. That's a problem for me. That's something I just can't quite see. That to me, it's just saying it's impossible. No, it's not possible. It's like, I'm going to show you the footage. Okay, well, where's the body? Okay, like honestly, the movie, I think the simple fix would have been if there was water. If the car went in the water, okay, can't find the body, I'm sold. But you see the problem there. It's just like it's that one plot hole. Just really, I think it hurts the mystery of the movie on the rewatch. And some parts towards the third act are a little iffy. But again, on the whole, it's a great time, and I just watch it for the entertainment's sake. Like if it were coming on HBO, as also it now has, I would watch it, especially all the Ryan Reynolds Pikachu scenes. Those are quite delightful. So yeah. It's a fun one.
Okay. Dragon, Pink Pearl says, what movie are you guys most looking forward to in 2020? We usually do this at the end, but since you asked it now, I'm not going to make you stick around for 3 hours.
You're going to just keep talking? Oh, man.
So, Dragon, I just want to go over, I was kind of doing some math today, and man, I do not have a great track record when it comes to my most anticipated of the year. All right, you ready to go over it?
I'm ready.
Okay, I don't remember 2010 and 2011, but 2012, I'm going to say 2012, my most anticipated was The Dark Knight Rises. You know how that turned out for me. Not a bad movie by any stretch, of course, but it was disappointing.
Well, it's no Avengers.
2013, Dragon, my most anticipated movie of this year, of 2013, was The Great Gatsby. And Dragon, honestly, that movie holds up. That movie holds up. Like that I'm proud to say was one of my most anticipated. But then we get to 2014. Oh boy, here we go, Dragon. This is where my streak begins. All right, you ready? 2014, most anticipated was Godzilla. And yeah, that movie, not the best.
Yeah, you had a terrible. I remember yours is runner. Well, you had a terrible streak. I had a relatively good streak.
Pretty much. 2015, Jurassic World. Oh boy. Oh yeah, that was smart.
Yep.
Let's see. 2016. I honestly, what was my 2016?
Well, it was probably Batman v Superman, but.
Oh God, no! I honestly don't remember my 2016, 2017. 2017 was Ready Player One was last year, right?
That was 18. Ready Player One. Okay,
Ready Player One was 2018. This year, I continued the streak because my most anticipated was Us. Us, again, a very good movie, but it definitely was not a perfect movie by any stretch. So, Dragon, just with that in mind, with my terrible track record, and every time I announce a most anticipated, I dread that I'm going to curse it. My most anticipated is In the Heights. This is the musical that Lin-Manuel Miranda did before Hamilton. And I've been looking forward to this for a long time. The trailer came out, and I think the trailer looks amazing. I think that it looks like they're adapting the songs really well. I think they've got a really fresh cast in the mix that really fits the roles well. I think In the Heights, just on a personal level, is a movie that I've been wanting for a long time. You know, it might not be like a Black Widow or a Pixar movie or anything like that, but just on a personal level, I'm so glad it's coming, and I'm stoked to see it. All right, for you, Dragon?
I mean, for me, I gotta tell you, there's kind of a cluster of really good ones. I mean, Black Widow is the one that springs to mind instantly. If I'm really being honest, it's probably Soul. It's one I'm probably looking most for. It's between
definitely my runner-up.
It's between Soul and Wonder Woman 84 because I've been dying to see Wonder Woman, beyond the origin point, which we're finally going to get. So it's probably going to be Wonder Woman 84 or Soul as the most anticipated. Then probably go like Black Widow and Tenet. Those are the top four for me.
Tenet is that's up there. That's up there for sure.
Yeah, like those are the ones I'm anticipating most. Like on one hand, like those are the ones that spring to mind very instantly. But probably Wonder Woman 84 as like the most anticipated because I've been dying to see that Wonder Woman. I want to finally be able to say, okay, Batman has Gotham, Superman has Metropolis, and Wonder Woman has, and we'll find out where that is in this movie.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, my number 22, Dragon. Oh, God. This is going to be one. Folks, I want to emphasize it's an honor to have made it this far on the list, all right? Like, I saw close to 100 movies, and it's in the top 25. It gets an A. My number 22 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
Okay, well, I'm just happy I made it on the list.
Respectable placement for it.
Well, considering you put Serenity on there, I'm just glad it made it.
It's above Serenity, yes. So could you imagine if I put Serenity over Endgame?
I might have killed you.
Okay, so Spider-Man Far From Home. Here's Pink Pearl Apple, West Side Story. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's coming out too. Yeah,
that is easily among my most anticipated movies of the year. Are both musicals, West Side Story and In the Heights. Those are like easily my top two. All right. So Spider-Man Far From Home, Dragon. I was hyped. All right, I was hyped walking out of the movie theater. That experience of seeing J.K. Simmons on screen again. And just the crowd reaction, man, that was one of the most exciting moments in the theater all year. And overall, I think the movie's very good. I think it's got the teen relationship dynamics down way better than Homecoming did. I think it's a big step up from Homecoming. I really did have a lot of fun with Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, especially after he takes off the mask. And, I love the the monologue, like, we're going to take Tony Stark and we're going to, I love the whole, like, evil villain speech he has. Of course, I think one of the best standalone scenes in the entire MCU is the big, the parking garage trip out scene, with the zombies and the hallucinations and everything. That was wonderful. Just overall, Far From Home, just honestly, I do think is among the maybe not the top tier. It's not the platinum tier of MCU movies, but it's definitely an A tier MCU movie for sure. Whereas I feel like Homecoming was like a C tier MCU movie. So this was a big step up. Honestly, Dragon, the only reason it's not higher is that I feel like some of the teen shenanigans don't really hold up on a rewatch, and a lot of the movies, that kind of stuff. You and I kind of agree that there's a scene on the bus that really kind of drags things down in the middle.
Yeah.
So there is some wonkiness to this movie, to be sure, and I don't think it holds up for a rewatch as much as I would like it to. And for that reason, I certainly can't say it's better than Spider-Man 2. Initially, I was like, I don't know, it might be better than Spider-Man 2.
I remember you were uncharacteristically like, yeah, this is the next Spider-Man 2!
It might be the next Dragon. It is the MCU Spider-Man 2, all right? I would say, like, in terms of, like, a big jump up from the sequel to the original, from the original to the sequel, this is a significant jump up. I just don't like Spider-Man 2 just has a special place for me, man. I've kind of come around to the fact that Spider-Man 2 is basically my empire of superhero movies, and nothing is really ever going to touch it. But all right. Okay. So yeah, Dragon, I'm sure that'll probably be a lot higher on your list.
Yeah.
But let's move on to your number 22.
Number 22 is John Wick Parabellum, or John Wick 3 for the layman. So yeah, this is one of the great action movies of the year of 2019. Of course, the director Chad Stahelski. Chad Stahelski. He was it was him and him and the other guy who went on to him and. Darn it! He and the other director, they did the first John Wick, and of course the other guy went on to do Deadpool 2, and they did an excellent job on that. The point being, Chad Stahelski, he was a stuntman on John Wick as well as the director, and essentially this guy, he gets it, man. He's like a really in the trenches director. Like you get a sense like this guy, he knows how to get the best performance out of Keanu. He knows how to really kind of build the world. Like this guy's been there from the very beginning. As we're continuing yet again with John Wick 3. Parabellum is kind of a creed in the Continental. And Parabellum translates to prepare for war. Basically, to ensure peace, you prepare for war, and that's what Parabellum is in that statement. So that's kind of what this is. Basically, this is a really interesting position of John Wick. He's on the run after he broke the credo of he broke the golden rule of the Continental. Continental, it's like it's safe. It's the safe space. It's like it's the home space. And no one kills anyone in the Continental. He kills someone in the Continental, and two, which means he's broken the rules. They gave him an hour head start, essentially. This movie literally is like at the end of that hour. Like, that's where the movie starts. It's raining out, looks really good. We're in New York City. He's on the run. My favorite bit in the movie, he kills a man with a book, and it's awesome. Oh my God, seeing him kill a man with a book, it's like, all right, that's in the beginning. It's like way in like the first 10 minutes he kills a man with a book. Stunning. Anyway, point being, this movie, it's a really thrilling action thing in all the right ways. There's some sequences that are a little indulgent on the action, basically like maybe we could trim some scenes. They're not hurting anybody though. It's just it went on a little bit long, but it was a fun scene anyway. Probably the only thing that holds this movie back for me is that it's a bit of an incomplete resolution. It's basically this movie, without saying exactly what happens, this movie ends at a point where they're making a John Wick 4, and you're definitely glad they're making a John Wick 4 because it definitely feels like, oh man, there's an ending for you. I need a resolution here, man. That's like it's an ending. It would have been like, it's like they ended it there. We're thank God they're doing a fourth one. Well, I understand it's gonna be the last one for them. This fourth one coming up, so it's gonna bring it all to a close. Hopefully, it's very well shot action. And I for the thrill junkies out there, you definitely should check it out. For the action junkies, you're gonna want to see this. Just for if you want to see like Keanu Reeves just doing what he does and just kind of being the fun. Just being Keanu Reeves, just kind of continuing to do what he's doing. Again, being the nicest guy in Hollywood, also the most deadly agent on screen. John Wick Parabellum's where you're going to want to go.
Claude Karinga asked, do you think streaming will change the film industry? Claude, I think streaming has changed the film industry, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, he's given us stuff like Dolomite, Marriage Story, and
Irishman, Marriage Story, which, spoiler alert, Marriage Story is very high up on my list. Yeah, Claude, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of it's already happening. Let's see, Pink Pearl, I just want to address, like, she's throwing out some cool ideas for a Disney princess. She says, I want to see a Disney princess that is unable to sing properly, but finds out she can freestyle rap, or one that doesn't feel like formal dresses and wear sneakers under a ball gown. Honestly, I'm down for that. I'd have to think of like a story that would accompany that, but anyways.
Someone earlier threw out the question, like, what fairy tale would you like to see Disney kind of tackle? Let me ask you this just real quick. King Midas, do you think there's ever a shot?
Ooh, that would be an interesting kind of downfall sort of thing.
Yeah. Because if they want to
Dragon, honestly, I threw out in the comments, and I kind of am still with this the more I think about it. I know I brought up the 2013 version earlier, but I'd love to see a Disney Great Gatsby.
That's interesting. Well, even animated, right?
I mean, yeah, an animated, like, I think like a Paperman style, I know we're always throwing around the Paperman thing.
We do.
But, man, I don't know.
I mean, King Midas could be absolutely the little match girl. They could absolutely do it like that. They'd give like a down ending, man. They could do that.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Of course. Inhuman Quake agrees with me about well, he's saying Lord of the Rings, but I think specifically The Hobbit, man. Like The Hobbit, the film versions of The Hobbit that we got were just abortions of movies, honestly. Like, I know that's strong language. I'm sorry, but I hate those movies. And then I think Disney could just do justice to The Hobbit. I really do. I think that book feels much more like a Disney story than it does anything else. All right. Anyways, Dragon, my number 21, speaking of Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Actor at the Golden Globes, congratulations, Joaquin. You're my number 21, Joker. I know this is probably way too low for a lot of people. I'm sorry. Dragon, here's the thing. This is a great movie. It's a compelling movie. It's got a wonderful performance. Conceptually, I don't really think anything about it is all that original. I'm sorry. Dragon, it's like, hey, you like Taxi Driver? You like King of Comedy? We're going to put him in a blender. Dragon, I am one of those people who's like, I'm impressed enough with this film from like a point of view of like, I do think Joaquin Phoenix's acting is obviously amazing. But man, this film didn't just borrow from King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. It's straight up, I don't want to say it copies from it, man, but I mean, it's close. It's close. Like, but it is, I mean, for what it is, it's extremely compelling. I'll give you that. Like, I remember the film experience I had. I was super uncomfortable, squirming in my seat. I feel like this is probably the closest thing to a horror comic book movie that we've ever had in terms of just sheer, like, not in like the Blade hunts vampires or whatever, just in terms of like, the skin crawling nature of it. The laugh, man, the laugh is awesome. Dragon, like I said, it's just at the end of the day, this movie just has, it wears its influences on its sleeve, and that's why it's not higher on the list. And I apologize. I I know it's probably going to be controversial to folks in the comments here that it's this high up on the list, but like I said, I still have a lot of respect for it, and I do think that Joaquin does kind of anchor the movie in a lot of ways with his performance. So,
All right.
Okay, and your number 21, Dragon?
Number 21 is a documentary. It is Framing John DeLorean.
All right.
So this, I say documentary in the loose sense because this is an ingeniously conceived documentary on John DeLorean, the inventor of the DeLorean, as you can probably assume from the name. This is half documentary, half biopic, because they have these meta recreations, as in like in the documentary they are doing recreations, but it's like not just like they're not just showing you recreations. It's about the preparation to shoot the recreations and everything, with Alec Baldwin. See, Alec Baldwin has Alec Baldwin and Marina Baccarin playing John DeLorean and his wife at the time. And essentially, what we're doing in this documentary is we're giving context to the infamous, like, John DeLorean was very much kind of a punchline for many years. I remember this. Where basically, when you mentioned the DeLorean, of course, the first thing you're going to think of is Back to the Future. But the second thing, for the people who were there before Back to the Future, they're thinking, oh yeah, the cocaine car guy. Where essentially John DeLorean and his company went bankrupt, which of course is a big reason you'll see DeLoreans around today outside of your Back to the Future enthusiast. And of course, DeLoreans, as beautiful and as iconic as they look, they're very terribly designed cars when you think of it. They're made of fiberglass. If they got in the one wreck or they caught on fire, they're done for. They really are. My point is, so very infamously, the idea is, okay, fledgling company, desperate businessman, he creates an iconic car who, like, basically after this, it then goes on to be very famous, like a year or so after the trial, they make the movie. It was very much it. He took part in the deal with somebody to essentially sell off cocaine, which would have made him a lot of money, which would have gotten him out of debt. And this movie shows you, kind of fleshes out the events. You talk to his friends, his kids. Again, you get some perspective from Baldwin. The very fascinating thing is Alec Baldwin. John DeLorean wanted Alec Baldwin to play him in a biopic. So this is kind of him fulfilling his wish in the movie. Because like years ago, towards the end of DeLorean's life, he called him up, saying, I think they want to do a movie about me. You should play me. And they make him up to look like him. They do him for the recreations. You get a little bit of Alec Baldwin's perspective on the matter. It's really fascinating. And this documentary, there's a focus on the aftermath. Like, again, we know, like, let's focus on the aftermath. We know what happens. Like, okay, he got essentially the big question is, like, did the FBI set him up? As in, like, they helped out a little bit more in this handoff than they should have. Like, they tried to nail like two birds at one stone. They tried to get the guys who were selling the cocaine and a guy who'd be desperate enough to buy the cocaine. Some people say this is like setting up a by entrapment. Basically, the question is if it's entrapment or not. And you get to see a little bit of the background. Like, it may have been entrapment, and otherwise, it's just the simple story of it's the aftermath of after a man goes through all this. Like, what motivates a man? This is like the guy who was in complete control for his whole life. Like, this is the guy who was like cool. He was cool when he was supposed to be hot under the collar. The guy never sweated in his life practically. This guy, yeah, we're going to order more cars. Well, we don't have enough money to make these cars. We're going to do it. And it's a very interesting portrayal of the guy. It shows you that things weren't as cut and dry as the media had made them out to be. And one of my favorite bits in the documentary. This is on it's on Hulu, by the way, for the kids out there if they can find it. I'd recommend checking it out. It's John DeLorean's son is in this documentary, and he's the biggest element of the aftermath, because basically you think the movie ends at the trial. He voices this in the documentary. He says, I really hope if they ever make a movie about my father's life, which I found out coincidentally, by the way, a little while ago when I was crafting this list, that they did the John DeLorean biopic this year, in fact. An actual John DeLorean biopic. It's called Driven. With Jason Sudeikis. He plays Lee Pace, so Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy. He plays John DeLorean, and essentially the FBI agent is Jason Sudeikis. And it seems like exactly what the son was afraid of. Like, they're going to sensationalize it. They're going to make it kind of, they're going to laugh at his father's misfortune, or they're going to glorify him. In this case, I don't want a biopic to end with my father being victorious outside the courthouse. And this movie it does it right. They kind of follow kind of what the son says, and it's something really kind of beautiful. So it's one of the most unique biopics I've ever seen this year. It's so unique. It's very interesting. Oh, sorry, so that's what I'm getting. It's the most unique documentary I saw this year.
Cool.
Well, one of the most unique. We're gonna get to the other one shortly.
Okay, my number 20. This is where we're getting to the big boys now, Dragon. Like I said, now that we're into this range, I really do think that all of these movies are truly great, and I would totally rewatch all these movies. They're very memorable for me. Number 20, I'm gonna go with Fighting with My Family. This to me, it's like I have next to no interest or rooting enthusiasm in wrestling at all. But man, this movie made me care, Dragon. It made me care. I think it was really I think it was really smart to focus on the brother sister dynamic and what happens when that gets torn apart, and that being the kind of like the root interest of the movie. I think all the performances, just top to bottom, including of course Florence Pugh in the main role, are just stellar. Vince Vaughn. This might be my favorite Vince Vaughn role.
I loved Vince Vaughn in this movie. He was so good.
He's great. This might be my favorite Nick Frost role, to tell you the truth. I think everyone in this movie is kind of playing at the top of their game. It's a lot of fun. I feel like the editing has a lot of energy to it. I was never bored. It does kind of go into some traditional biopic tropes. It's not the most original biopic in the world, but it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. I thought it was a very uplifting movie, and it was definitely the first movie of the year, doing the memoirs, where I was kind of like, okay, I can definitely say that this is good enough to be called my favorite movie of the year so far. So, it certainly a lot kind of like edged it out, but I still think I'm still happy that it got a place in the top 20.
All right.
Okay. Oh, and I just realized that I didn't switch back to mine, so I'm sorry. Go ahead with yours.
All right, so my 20 was the other documentary I put on the list. It was Never Surrender, a Galaxy Quest documentary. See, I like this movie so much I actually bought it on Amazon. Cause really, it's I tell you, man,
I've said it before. I'm not a big Galaxy Quest guy. And the reason I'm not a big Galaxy Quest guy is because I'm not a big Star Trek guy, and I feel like a lot of the Galaxy Quest jokes kind of go over my head because I'm not a big Star Trek guy.
Well, still, I mean, knowing how much you love meta things, you really should give it another shot.
Yeah, maybe.
Anyway, so yes, of course, I do love Galaxy Quest, but still, this is Screen Junkies. The other guys on YouTube, the guys who do the honest trailers for the kids out there. The Screen Junkies. I don't know if this is their first documentary ever. I assume it is. If it is, did an A+ job on it. This for me is probably the best tribute documentary of the year, as in something that's specifically just.
Dragon, do Screen Junkies do they have like a production logo in front of this movie?
There's some logo. I think it's like they think they have like an actual. I don't think they call it. I can't remember for the life of me if Screen. I don't think Screen Junkies is specifically used. I think they have like a different company or different I think they probably create a production company outside of.
Right.
I'm sure they're in there in the credits somewhere. In terms of like the first logo that pops up, I'm not sure. I don't think it's under Screen Junkies. It might be. I don't know. I'm sorry. It's I'm not sure. Well, yeah, this is the best tribute documentary of the year. It's unexplored territory. So I want to say this is when this came out, it was like the 20-year anniversary of Galaxy Quest, which kind of made it even more appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
This is very informative. I learned a lot of things I never knew about Galaxy Quest. For example, Harold Ramis, he was originally set to direct Galaxy Quest, which kind of blew my mind. I never knew about that. A really interesting thing on the rewatch that kind of stuck out to me, I guess I missed the first time, was apparently when this movie is getting made, this is like DreamWorks towards its beginnings. It's like when DreamWorks is kind of getting off the ground when they're developing, doing Galaxy Quest. And DreamWorks at that time, when it just got off the ground, even before DreamWorks Animations, like when we're at the point where Spielberg, David Geffen, and Steven Spielberg, and darn it.
Katzenberg,
darn it! I usually miss Geffen because how would have.
Yeah, I was gonna say Katzenberg is arguably the most memorable out of those.
I know. I made an effort to remember Geffen and I forgot Okay, regardless, the point being, the SKG of DreamWorks, those guys. Point being, the fact like these three guys come together, they build DreamWorks. And essentially, it was kind of viewed as the Planet Hollywood of the day.
Uh-huh.
It's essentially what it was looked at as, and of course that's like saying, like, these three celebrities, they kind of get a business together, Mr. Successful, and it's going to be doomed for failure, and it's kind of an interesting thing to keep in mind. I don't know, it's just something kind of I thought was a little interesting food for thought there. Anyway, so this movie touches on how this film, in a sense, revolutionized kind of a fan culture with its optimism. That's the thing. A lot of times you just have the classic, fandom and just kind of like geekdom. It was very much kind of like a punchline. It's very much, oh yeah, the guys that go to the conventions, the Inhuman guys, the guys like the overweight Star Trek guy, that sort of thing. It was always very much like the punchy, like it's like the fanboy from Freakazoid. It was very much just kind of like the kind of flounder from Animal House, dude, that sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And this movie was the complete opposite of that. It gave credence to it. It was like one of the first times it ever happened. And it was very much, again, ultimately became the best Star Trek film in everything but the name. It was very much like, like Brett Spiner's in this documentary saying, God, I wish we had made this movie because it would have been perfect for us. Like the actual Star Trek guys wanted a piece of the action in retrospect. There's just something really special about this. I don't want to go on forever about it. It's kind of the best example I had for this thing. It's like the Iron Giant documentary I showed you. Remember the Brad Bird Iron Giant?
Yeah.
It's very much like that. To me, it puts the Alien documentary they made this year, but the guy who did The People versus George Lucas, which is an excellent documentary, who went on to do the Alien documentary, the origins of Alien. This I think this puts that to shame. Probably doesn't beat Apollo 11, which I did not see. I'll fully admit, probably doesn't put Apollo 11 to shame, but it definitely puts the Alien thing to shame, which I never would have called in a million years. This thing is just is wonderful, and I was so happy I saw it again. I never buy a movie. I always love to buy the physical copy because this thing doesn't seem to ever be getting a physical copy, at least for a long while. Well, on Amazon because I loved it that much, man. I highly recommend checking this out. Especially if you're a Galaxy Quest fan, you gotta look at this, man. You gotta.
All right. Moving on to my number 19. Dragon, I am a sucker for a biopic with a good framing device, my friend, and Rocket Man is a biopic with a good ass framing device. The thing that really sticks with me in Rocket Man, Dragon, like the singular image to me that kind of defines the movie, is Taron Egerton at the beginning of the movie bursting into the rehab with his like gaudy, like angel wing costume.
Well, he's a demon. He's his own demon.
Oh yeah, right, the demon. Right. And then like throughout the movie, he just sheds more and more of the costume as he's going through this recounting his life to the rehab group. Dragon, I love the framing device in this movie. I think that this movie is just, I don't want to like say fighting words against Bohemian Rhapsody. I think Bohemian Rhapsody is like a fine movie wrapped up in an excellent performance. This movie is a great performance wrapped up in an excellent story, man. I mean, I really think that this is one of the most original biopics of the decade. I love the way that all the songs are framed. It's got a real like dreamlike quality to it. I especially love the transition from his childhood to his teenage years with Saturday Nights Are Right for Fighting, where he slips under the fence and goes into the carnival and bam, he's a teenager. There's a lot of memorable transitions here. I think the storytelling is really, really on point with all that. And it's a biopic that makes you want to get invested in the music. It makes you want to get up and dance. And I love it. I love it. And yeah. I know it's on your list as well, Dragon. So I'm curious how much further up you have it.
Well, we'll find out.
Yeah. That's about all I have to say about Rocket Man. Check it out, folks. Check it out, especially if you liked Bohemian Rhapsody. If you liked Bohemian Rhapsody and you haven't seen Rocket Man, you're definitely missing out, because this is directed by the same guy who pretty much finished Bohemian Rhapsody, and this is his own vision. And man, his own vision is just
I mean, I'd like to see this guy do more music-based biopics with this same sort of framework. All right, Dragon, let's move on to your number 19.
All right, my number 19. Oh, boys, this might be a polarizing one for the folks. But again, all in the upper echelon. Frozen 2.
Okay. Well, Dragon, at least you have it on your list.
You know, I've just now realized that. Oh, yeah, I do.
I did not like Frozen 2. I'll say it.
Yeah, so
outside of, like, a couple songs that I thought were really good, and a couple.
Into the Unknown is just so remarkably great. It really is.
Yeah. But go ahead.
So look, Frozen 2 to me, it's a fun continuation of a world that we like and like to visit. Characters that we like, and that's the movie's biggest strength. It really is. The fact that we're going back to the world and you get to see it develop a little bit. Has some standout songs. Again, Into the Unknown being kind of the MVP. Some others. The whole thing. It's I think there's some great moments of comedy. Again, for me, like the best part of the whole movie is Olaf recapping the original Frozen and for Sterling K. Brown, which is just hysterical. It's just it's the best part of the whole movie for me.
To me, that gag it's good, but it's almost kind of like, hey kids, you like Louise? You like Louise's chick from Ant-Man?
Yeah. But anyway. Well, look, Frozen 2, it's got gorgeous animation. It's got a great look to it. But again, as I said before, and I'll say again, the reason I have no qualms ranking it as low as I have, because it made the list, and again, the upper echelon there, and I do like it. But at the end of the day, folks, this is a sequel. This is one of those sequels that just doesn't measure up to the first one. You got to remember, though, giving it credit, though, this is the first time they've ever done something like this. The first time we've had a theatrical sequel to a Disney Disney princess movie.
Uh-huh.
The very first time we've ever done something. We've had Disney princesses in a sequel, but it was Wreck-It Ralph too. So not regardless, so this is the first time we've ever done this. So it's the first time. I'll cut some slack by all means, but still, it's not as good as the first one. I don't want to just make it sound like it's not as good as the first one, but no, seriously, it's not though. It's like
I think like as a musical, it is more structurally sound than the first one. As a musical.
Yeah, as a musical, but honestly, the charm of Frozen, I think for a lot of people, and at least for me, is that I love there was a simplicity to the story and a complexity of character. That was the balance we struck on the first Frozen, and I think we sacrificed that here because story-wise, there was a lot of pressures, and we've been working really well in the short form with Frozen, with stuff like Frozen Fever, and of course, Olaf's Frozen Adventure. And we've done really well with that, but there's just so much pressure. I presume on them because people have been waiting for this. They've been kept waiting on this. They've been tantalized like these shores of like, oh god, when they come back for Frozen 2, it's gonna be great. I was one of them. I was very much like I was looking very much forward to Frozen 2.
I was hyped based on the teaser trailers, Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, I got some fulfillment. Definitely, the first act, it was there. I was like getting everything I wanted. You have like Into the Unknown being played. You have like you're kind of refreshing your characters where they're at. Like I love the idea Elsa's terrible at charades. Like this is the kind of stuff I live for, Frozen, man. I'm very happy and content in the opening of this movie. And then it kind of goes on. Essentially, it just feels like the pressure got to him, and that led to a lot of overcompensation. We want to go big. We want to do a lot of real story things, man. But we're not explaining it well. Basically, we're playing fast and loose. So basically, the kids will be entertained, but they're not like we're playing towards the kids, and that we don't really need to elaborate on things. We only really cover our bases because the kids aren't going to care because we're kind of playing to a bigger audience, and it just feels like what we have is it feels like the whole Toy Story 2 thing where it could have been good enough or it could have been perfect. Pixar, they went for perfection with their sequel. Like, no, we can't release the version. It's going to be good. That was good enough for direct-to-video. It's going to be good enough for theaters. No, we have to go theatrical. We got to go the full 9 yards with it. Frozen 2 is like, what we have is good enough. People are going to love it. They're going to eat it up. I don't mean to make that sound unfeeling, but it just feels like, I don't know what we're going to do. This works. This is kind of what we want to tell. I don't think we're making it quite sing, pun intended. But, I mean, at the end of the day, so just to come down to positive again, I still love these characters, and I love seeing more of them. I was satisfied, but I wasn't super impressed. I was satisfied enough with it, and then I was like, you know what? It was more Frozen. That's what I asked for. and it was good, but not exceptional.
Okay. All right, my number 18, Dragon. Man, oh man, I love this one. I really do. This movie. This is such a fun movie, Dragon. Dare I say this might be one of my favorite new horror movie villains of the decade. Watch out, folks. I'm going with Ma.
Oh god, this one.
Ma is so goddamn fun. I love this movie as a slasher movie. I had such a fun time with this movie. I think this movie is really underrated. Octavia Spencer, folks, I put her in the top right corner there for a reason, prominently. I mean, look at her face. This movie, honestly, was pretty much everything I was hoping that Us would be. I mean, this movie is just a roller coaster. And honestly, what I love about this movie is that it kind of stems from like a more relatable sort of scenario. It's not necessarily just like some crazy woman, with a knife. It's more so this kind of like deep-seated person with a lot of issues who knows how to take advantage of stupid teenagers and does so very effectively. And there's some really harrowing stuff in this movie. But Dragon, there's one scene in particular that I just can't get enough of that I made you watch. Would you like to describe it?
Yes, it was basically just kind of boils down to she kind of terrifies this one kid, and essentially he says, "Oh, you almost got me. You got me, Ma.
You got me, Ma."
He was terrified out of his pants, literally, and just like, "Oh, you got me, Ma."
Pink Pearl saying she can't stand horror movies. Someone with panic attacks is not going to like them, like me. Pink Pearl, I absolutely respect that for sure. I will say, though, that I think this decade and this year, but this decade as a whole, has been a fantastic decade for the genre. I mean, and I think the genre as a whole, we've been getting such original stuff that's so far beyond just typical slasher movie fare. So, Ma is pretty much a typical slasher movie, which is why I can't really put it higher on the list. But it's a slasher movie with a really relatable premise, and Octavia Spencer just absolutely kills it, man. I mean, she just goes for it. She just puts her fucking foot to the gas and just does not hold back the whole movie. It's so much fun.
Yeah, earlier, Claude Coringa said Lost in the Woods and Show Yourself are the best songs in Frozen 2. Lost in the Woods is one of the great parts of that movie. Lost in the Woods is hysterical.
All right, Dragon, leads us to your number 18.
All right, so this is where we enter the stage in the list here where I have to really emphasize favorite in kind of our namesake here. So at the end of the day, I kind of went with my gut and like, in terms of the ranking, I did go back and forth on a lot of things in terms of where to place certain things. And I went, you know what? I mean, it's my list, darn it. I like this, and I enjoyed it, so I'm going to put it there, darn it. So I think the dire Disney fans might think I need my head examined, but you know what, man? I mean, Frozen 2, I was a smidge let down by that movie. So I have no qualms putting this as high as it is. Number 18 for me is Batman versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That's no secret.
Go with another very controversial Disney movie, but you're saving that. You're holding on to that card.
Yeah. Point being, so this, of course, I'm a huge Batman fan. This is, of course, the 80th year for the character. But seriously, this movie, the enjoyment I had for this movie is just something I really can't put into words, man. This was the next Batman crossover by the director Jake Castorina. Jake Castorina, who did the Scooby-Doo meets Batman Brave and the Bold, that whole Scooby-Doo and Batman Brave and the Bold, the thing we talked about. So this guy knows how to do crossovers, man, very well. He's very, very good at the crossover. I think I forget the writers from the Scooby Natural crossover they had hands on. No, I'm thinking of something else. Never mind, forget that. Point being, we had the crossover guy do this. This was the best animated Batman project of 2019. There were a few others this year that were nowhere near close to this. This high on the list, like Batman Hush, that was never going to touch this. But seriously, this I almost forgot about this because I remember I just enjoyed this movie so much I kind of forgot. Like, oh god, it came out this year. Oh god, I have to put it in there. Make sure I get it in there because I really love this thing. My buddies this year for Christmas, I love this movie so much. Like they gave me a little figure set of the animated version of Batman from this and Leonardo. Because it was a touching little gesture because we all my point is watching my buddies we got such a great kick out of this movie. It was such a highlight of the year. It was a lot of fun, and this could have very easily been a cash grab. Batman meets the Ninja Turtles, Warner Brothers and Nickelodeon. Oh boy, it could have been such a cash grab, but it wasn't. This movie was so enjoyable and so rewatchable. I mean, I just have a great time every time.
You got the characterization down just right, especially with the turtles.
That's what I'm saying. Even though it's not like a lot of diehards have their specific versions of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like they're like Rob Paulson in the role and such. We didn't have that, but this movie gets the characterization. Sorry, you kind of don't care. Again, I'm not a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle guy, and that's what I'm saying. This movie makes me wish I was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle guy. It really does, because I'm so sold in the characters. Like this stuff in the Nickelodeon, the CG one, not the weird looking one they have now, but the CG one they had like in 2012, I think. Like those are the ones that make me want to be a TMNT fan, like because that universe, that whole the worldview, the dynamic between the bros, that looks great. The more I learn about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the more invested I get. And this is like taking my passion and just kind of fusing it in with like them. And it's like if you haven't checked it out now, maybe you should, And of course, there's like a series of comics where they pair them together. So it's not coming completely out of the blue, but and they kind of adapted the original comic story. But they made it their own thing. I really respected that. I think I like the story here better than the comics. I looked into it after watching the movie here. It's a solid adaptation. I really like the style. It's got great animation, especially during the fight scenes. It's really well boarded. The boarding is stellar on this movie. It gets a little mutation happy, I'll admit, in places. But seriously though, this is a really strong story and a really strong plot. Everything that happens makes sense. Like Ra's al Ghul being reluctantly teamed up with the Shredder. It's an ingenious idea. It makes all the sense in the world. And it's like like the plan of we need little shades of the demon who laughs with a team up with the Joker, and that we need a piece from him so we can complete like the big component that Ra's al Ghul wants to destroy Gotham with. It makes sense. So in short, this to me was maybe the coolest film. But I say cool in like the 90s. This is like the coolest film of 2019, and definitely a really great way to celebrate 80 years of Batman. So I put this one as high up here because just purely from an enjoyment level and rewatchability, it makes you feel good, man. It makes you feel good in all the right ways. It was a fun movie.
Okay. All right. My number 17, Dragon. This is a movie I know you're going to dig when you get a chance to see it. I think it's the best Clint Eastwood directed movie of the decade. Got a fantastic cameo from Alex Poncio's long-lost brother, Paul Walter Hauser. It's Richard Jewell.
That's the other one I wanted to see, man. Richard Jewell. That was the big. I love it when Eastwood directs, man.
This movie is like another example of great 2019 movies that are just designed to give you anxiety attacks. Because, man, you really feel the media's invasiveness throughout this movie. You really feel this guy's life just becoming unraveled. But what I really love about this movie, by the way, Pink Pearl, see you later. Thanks for joining us. But what I really love about this movie is how balanced it is and how, like this guy is clearly, like, kind of a whacked out, he's got some social issues, he's got some social issues, to say the least. And this movie does a good job of illustrating them. And so I feel like Clint Eastwood does a great job of kind of like, yeah, the movie is obviously on Richard Jewell's side for sure, but it doesn't demonize anyone in the process because it does a great job of showing all the sides of the coin and how people got to the conclusions that they did jump to. And I will say that I loved the Sam Rockwell performance in this movie, and I think Sam Rockwell and Paul Walter Hauser have a great buddy dynamic in this movie.
I think they play off of each other. They have some really good comedic beats with each other in the movie. Really, really good stuff there. Kathy Bates, I honestly think is Oscar worthy. I think that she, for Best Supporting Actress, it's great to see her in something with some class again after Disjointed. And overall, Dragon, this movie, it fills you with tension from the beginning. It doesn't let go. It's a great examination of how the media can destroy someone's life, and it's very culturally relevant. And I liked it a lot. Like I said, it's probably my favorite Clint Eastwood directed movie of the decade.
A few comments here in Human Quake. He made the point of, he's remarking how Troy Baker, can pull off. Basically, he played both Batman and the Joker, which is something I've wanted to see for a while now. Seeing his performance in the Telltale game as Batman, some of the other stuff he's done as Batman, and Assault on Arkham, his performance of the Joker, which is great. To see him play both, which is awesome. Same man doing both roles. Doesn't get any more dichotomous than that, my friend. Also, someone made the point of, how dark that in Human Quake also made the point of how dark they went. Because remember, it's a PG-13 movie, man. Like we kill people in that movie. That was the other shock factor was just sheer awesome about that too. Anyway, sorry. Moving on. So number 17 for me then would be Rocket Man.
Rocket Man. I'm kind of upset that Rise of Skywalker is higher than this.
Well, anyway.
I'm just going to say for the record.
You put Serenity on your list. You have no room to...
I know!
Anyway, so Rocket Man, of course, this is basically Tiki said most of this already, but Rocket Man is the next Dexter Fletcher musical biopic. This time 100% him, thankfully. This is this is a movie you haven't seen, Tiki. It's something I really recommend you see on the side as well if you ever do catch up, man. It says this is kind of like Bohemian Rhapsody meets Beyond the Sea. That's the movie. Beyond the Sea is the one you got to check out.
Yeah, I need to see Beyond the Sea.
I love Beyond the Sea. One of the great musical biopics you'll ever see. And this Rocket Man, on rewatch, it dawned on me, oh my God, it is kind of like a mixture of Beyond the Sea and Bohemian Rhapsody in a sense. In that, it's... It kind of has the inspiring kind of build that Bohemian Rhapsody gets by the third act, especially like the whole, we are champions by the end of Live Aid, for example, and of course Beyond the Sea. Basically, the device of the younger self with Elton John is very much from Beyond the Sea. It feels kind of like that, and of course, like the personal highs and lows, especially perennially, that's a Beyond the Sea thing. Believe me. Regardless. Basically, Rocket Man is a biopic with kind of the flamboyant style of Elton John. Taron Egerton, he's fantastic. He's gold. He's absolute gold in this movie. I'm so glad, it's just so ironic, since, in Kingsman, he worked with Elton John, and apparently that friendship did bear some fruit. Matthew Vaughn, I heard Matthew Vaughn fought for Taron Egerton. He said he'll produce it only if Taron Egerton is in the role, which thankfully happened, because Tom Hardy was originally in the role, and they kind of swapped that out around the course of things. He dropped out of it for other things. I don't know if it was Venom. I'm going to hope it wasn't for Venom. Anyway, so seriously, this is basically this is a story about a man who's at war with who he is as he creates a name and gives it power. Like one of the best parts of the movie for me is the whole when he learns the lesson of you have to kill who you were meant to be. Basically, you have to kill who you were born to be in order to make room for who you were meant to be. That sort of line. That's a line kind of says it all for me in the movie. This movie has some heartbreakingly tragic moments, again, perennially. Specifically, oh my God. I tell you, Bryce Dallas Howard, man, she's a monster in this movie.
Yeah.
She is. It's a very well shot music. The musical elements of the whole film, it's very well shot. Again, true fantasy was the awesome word that kind of sold me. If you weren't sold on the movie already in the trailer when it said true fantasy on screen, okay, this movie actually knows what it is, and I'm down for it. Buy me a ticket, man. I'm down for it. And it's what's so great about this is that it's obviously a little bit heightened, and with kind of the way we're doing that, we're obviously none of the songs are going to be chronological because we're picking songs that fit the scenes better. No one cares. It doesn't matter. That's the fact. This movie is covering the fact that apparently there's a lot that's really inaccurate about this movie, but you don't care because it's so compelling, and it is really compelling. There's a lot of things that are kind of inaccurate in the movie, but again, most of that is just things like this song didn't come out this year, but obviously it's we don't break in the song in real life. We can get away.
I don't really even think that's an inaccuracy because, like you said, if you're going to go down that hole, you're going to have to go into the whole like we don't break out into songs in real life.
But I mean, like there were some actual things like the parental relationships. Apparently, like the thing with his father apparently wasn't as bad as it was in the movie. And
Well, that's
I think
a biopic thing for you. I mean, name me a biopic where the father's actually supportive.
that's it. I don't care about. I'm just saying that's what some critics have lobbed against. They say every biopic always has the fighting against itself. Every biopic you ever hear, even the great ones, always say like, "Well, that didn't happen." Like, well, obviously they're taking liberties for the story. And this one called it from the trailers. All right, you're going into this one knowing it's a true fantasy. Fantasy being the operative word.
Right.
Seriously, Rocket Man just it was. I think it's way better than Bohemian Rhapsody. I did like Bohemian Rhapsody. This was. This was great, and again, it's I think it's definitely kind of in the reams of like a Beyond the Sea. It was true, it was quite good. I loved it.
Okay. All right, number 16 for me. I really wanted to place this higher. I really wanted it to be in my top 10. Dragon, to me, this is like the people's champion. It's see you later in Human Quake. Thanks for sticking around as long as you did. I know this is a long one. My number 16 Dragon is Peanut Butter Falcon. This is the Shia LaBeouf movie, and it also co-stars a real life kid with Down syndrome who kind of plays himself in a way. His name is Zach, and he plays a character named Zach. And Dragon, basically, Shia LaBeouf and this kid Zach are both runaways, and they meet up with each other. They form a very unlikely friendship and bond. The whole thing kind of has this like sort of Mark Twain vibe to it because they're on a raft for a lot of the movie.
Oh god,
a lot of colorful characters. There's a sweet little romance that develops between the kid's social worker and Shia LaBeouf. This is, to me, Shia LaBeouf's my favorite Shia LaBeouf performance. I did not get a chance to see Honey Boy this year, though, and I'm pretty sure if I saw that, I would say that that's probably Shia LaBeouf's best performance. But, I mean, this movie just absolutely warmed my heart. It delighted me. It's got some of the biggest laugh-out-loud moments of the year. It's got some of the most heartwarming moments of the year. It's sweet. It's lovable. I love the fact that it's a showcase for this Down syndrome kid to just act his heart out and just be his true self on camera. And it's just an awesome testament to people with disabilities the world over that a movie like this can exist and just celebrate people like this. And like I said, Dragon, I wish that I could put this movie higher because I really do think this is an important movie. I hope that this is a movie that I think that everyone should see just because it does such a good job. Of course, I have autism runs in my family. My brother has severe autism. I have a high functioning form of autism. So obviously Down syndrome is way more severe than autism, but still it's still really, really cool to see, like I said, this isn't just someone playing Down syndrome. This is a legit Down syndrome person playing this role and being in this movie and going on this adventure. And it's so cool to see, Dragon. I love it. I love that this movie exists. It warms my heart. All right.
Okay, my number 16.
Yep.
All right, my number 16 is Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker.
There you go.
Oh, you see, again, some of the stuff is interchangeable, and listen, it was a little servicing, like, would it go, like, before or after, and this, at the end of the day, there's kind of like a factor of, like, well, it's Star Wars. There's a little bit of a factor of, well, it's Star Wars. No, but seriously, Rise of Skywalker, it's a mixed bag, unequivocally. Seriously, it is a mixed bag. I come down a little bit more on the positive side of things. I've heard people be really negative with it. I've heard people be really positive with it. Even the ones who are really positive with it, though.
Than I am negative. I just think that the story is a hot mess.
No, you and I are very simpatico on it. It is. This thing, as we've said before, it's JJ's playing scared on this one, whether it's because of the studio. Now people are going the whole, free the JJ cut, which I think is, come on, man, really, what we're doing? It's like why can't we just let the guy make his movie so there's no question of like a hidden cut or whatnot? I don't know. Point being, JJ is playing scared for some unknown forces. We'll never know the behind the scenes truly, but but at the end of the day, there are moments where it all comes together. I mean, moments like, I'm sold like that Palpatine reintroduction, man. For me, the big scene of the whole movie is the X-Wing scene, and when he rises the X-Wing, the callback to my favorite moment in all of Star Wars, man. It's like, yes, when he's lifting the X-Wing out, that smile on his face. It's like, it doesn't get any better than that. And like, certain, there are other, of course, the ending of it all, without getting too into that. I mean, just there's certain cameos. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, with certain cameos we never thought, imagined that we would see in this movie. That's what I'm talking about, that sort of stuff. Basically, thinking about the analogy that I have, that perfect analogy I think I have for Rise of Skywalker, where I'm at on, I think we're all at on it, in a sense, is this movie, at least you and I were coming down a little bit more positive. I think at the end of the day, it's that this movie was like Return of the Jedi. I know it's literally the place of Return of the Jedi, but it's Return of the Jedi in the sense of the movies that are unequivocally Star Wars are A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. Unequivocally Star Wars. There's style, there's like, you can say Star Wars and everyone know what you mean. They're going to be one of those two movies. Like I Am Your Father, Empire Strikes Back. Those two movies were absolutely Star Wars. First act and the first act in the Emperor scene of Jedi, that's also unequivocally Star Wars, but we're kind of meandering in the middle a little bit. Okay, we're on a planet full of we're on a planet full of Ewoks. Like, why is there's like, we're all in military garb. We're all just kind of blending in. We're just kind of waiting on a planet for a while, and then the Emperor scene kicks in. That's why we're there. Yeah, it's kind of what Return of the Jedi is. And my point is, like, we have another Return of the Jedi movie, which is not bad. It's just not as good as the other two. Mm-hmm. But now we have all this negative hype and expectation, rooting kind of in the wings, like the giant ambiguous Sith spectators, just waiting to pounce. Whether it's like, they better get right or it better satisfy me. Like, this is like, we had like another Return of the Jedi, which should just be like not as good as the other two.
Star Wars fanboys. That's a great analogy.
What I'm saying, like, this should just be another Return of the Jedi, which it really is, which is what I view it as. But it's like, it's Return of the Jedi, but it's wrong for being Return of the Jedi. So that's the thing. The core story, like in The Last Jedi, is the best part. Where, of course, the core story, Last Jedi, and with this is the Rey Kylo Ren story, the whole like the Luke Skywalker derivative.
Kylo Ren, it's like I'm excited to rewatch the trilogy with the idea of him being the main character, because I really do think that is the way to watch these movies, and I think that Kylo Ren's character arc is fantastic from top to bottom in each three of the movies.
But that's what it is, like that core story of those characters, like that's the strongest part of the movie, and that's kind of what you take away from these last kind of installments. But again, simple statement I said like when we did the first time. I'll admit, like the more I think, the more I hear people like people brought up the medal, like something I never thought about with the medal. Of course, obviously Chewbacca finally gets his medal, which
medal is obvious fan service.
No, I'm getting to it. That's the thing. It is on its face. It's obvious fan service, which is cool. But here's the better thing. Apparently, I completely forgot about this. Leia was holding on to the medal when she died.
Right.
And people have brought up the fact that I kind of missed out on, where it's like, oh yeah, my God, she's clinging on to the happiest memory of her life, which is like like A New Hope, which is kind of beautiful.
The moment when Chewie didn't get his medal.
No, it's this. She's holding on to Han's medal, man.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's kind of beautiful when you think about it. These are the kind of thoughts. This is what I'm talking about. There is a positive side to this movie that's just underreported, and that's the thing. There's a lot of just like, it's Star Wars at its best in those moments. Not enough, mind you, but in those moments it gets it right.
C-3PO banter, I'll give it that much.
It does. The movie it sticks a landing. It's a bumpy Star Tours. It's a landing of a bumpy Star Tours variety. Let's call it that much. It's kind of what it is.
All right. Okay, time for some controversy, Dragon controversy.
Oh boy.
Number 15, Toy Story 4.
Oh!
Sorry.
Not even the top 10?
Dragon, I certainly respect this movie a lot. I think it's got a lot of things going for it. I think the Woody stuff is great. I think the ending is just absolutely devastating and beautiful and, dare I say, perfect. That being said, there's a couple elements to this movie that are a little bit wonky for me, and most of it has to do with the way that this movie treats the ensemble cast. I'm really not a fan of most of the RV antics in the movie. I mean, I feel like individually it's funny stuff, but I just don't really feel like it leads to any big payoff. I'm really not a fan, especially on rewatch, of the Buzz Lightyear stuff. I really agree with people's criticisms where they basically just gave him one gag the whole movie, and I'm not crazy about that. Honestly, I think with Bo Peep, I feel like they went a little too overboard with changing her up. But that being said, I mean, this movie has definitely got some of the most memorable set pieces of all of 2019. And dare I say, I feel like maybe something that kind of is slowly replacing just humming the opening notes of Bundle of Joy. For as much as that elicits emotion, Dragon, hang on, RC. That elicits fear, Dragon. That elicits dread. But I mean, what can I say? Like I said, at this point, we're reaching, I've got a lot of great movies coming up, Dragon. So we're reaching a point of my list where everything is just top notch. I mean, nobody thought that Toy Story 4 was a good idea. They did it. And lo and behold, pretty much everyone loved it. Not everyone was on board with it, but I was, and I got a lot out of it. It's just, it didn't crack my top 10, but I feel like that's only just because, this year is so strong for movies that, something kind of has to go by the wayside here. But yeah, I'm sure it's going to be way higher up on yours. So,
yeah.
All right. Your number 15?
Number 15 is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World.
Nice. I've been meaning to rewatch this. If I did, maybe it would end up in my, on my list. I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so you see Rise of Skywalker and How to Train Your Dragon. Again, we have both of our endings kind of like back to back here, but no question that How to Train Your Dragon definitely was the more fitting end. Basically, it was more solid throughout. That's why it's definitely it made the crack the 15 for a reason, folks. It's is a fitting and strong. This is a fitting end to a very strong trilogy, because all the How to Train Your Dragon movies in the trilogy have been really strong, been really good. This one could have gone either way with the Bright Fury in the mix. It really could have. Or in the trailer, it was really iffy. Like, oh god, they're doing like a romance. This might be a good story. Don't get me wrong, but you're doing it in the last movie. You're not going to get another one. This is the big one, and you're doing the old Toothless. Toothless has a girlfriend. We're doing that, really? But no, it's.
I just remember seeing that trailer so many times and just get really, really sick of the Astrid delivery of Toothless has a girlfriend. I'm just like, oh god.
No, but thankfully it did work out. It was a part of the story. It's my favorite part of the third one here is that we address.
Honestly, the Toothless girlfriend part is like some of the darkest shit in the whole franchise, honestly.
It kind of is. But that's the thing. I love how my favorite element of the movie is how, of course, bear in mind at this point, like I'm indoctrinated fully into How to Train Your Dragons, man. I've seen the trilogy. I've seen.
Two is the high point of the trilogy.
Yes, yeah, it is that. Yeah, it is the high point. Yeah, but that's the thing. So you have that, but also I've watched the series, not the crappy new one they have, mind you, the cash-in one, but the good one that was basically it fills the gap in between the first movie and the second movie. It's kind of that's a series that's on Netflix right now. It's really good. Alfred Molina's in it too, man. He's the bomb. Anyway, my point is, so my favorite thing that we kind of brought from there and we kind of put in here, basically the whole trilogy's been doing really well. We address kind of these logical issues of finality. It's like the whole question like overpopulation. Like, okay, well, we brought all the dragons to Berk. We're all friendly, and of course the problem with that is like now there's like a surplus of dragons in our home, and that's going to create some problems and also make us kind of a sitting duck to anyone who does not like dragons. Like a wonderful addition to this movie, F. Murray Abraham playing Grimmel.
Yes.
I love the villain in this, man. The villain rocks, man. I love the villain. I love the class. F. Murray Abraham, he was such a great part of this movie. He was just like those scenes, those one-on-one scenes between him and Hiccup, the fact they knew Stoic, he kind of respected him, and he just like, the dragon hunter who's like, you should bring, you're flirting, you're toying with nature here. And again, the villain does have a point that we kind of see that man and dragon can't quite coexist, and that's the point of the movie. Not in the sense that we need to hunt them, mind you, but in the sense of, we literally can't coexist. It's a problem that Hiccup's dealing with. The animation, it's great. Of course, we hit like a huge high point with 2. It got even better with 3. The animation sublime. The design of the world, of the hidden world specifically, that's really cool too. It's kind of dazzling. I love the entryway to the hidden world is the really big stand. Everyone's like, oh, look at the bioluminescence. Yes, that's all fine and dandy. But look at that water, man. Look at that hole. Seriously, it's like, oh my god, it's the most photorealistic thing you'd ever darn near see.
This franchise has always been great with water and ice.
Yes, it has. Ice big time in the second one. It has a very emotional and very perfect ending too. I mean, the very end of this movie is just it's so on the money. It's like, oh god, it's the perfect note to end on, or kind of the next generation quality of it all. It's great. Unfortunately, now it's leading to a whole like, oh god, now we have like just crappy leftover animation on Netflix in our future, unfortunately. But still, excellent ending.
All right, well said. Good pick. Okay, coming up with my number 14 here, Dragon. I'm gonna go with another pretty mainstream one. I'm gonna go with Shazam.
Shazam!
Yeah, this was so much fun, Dragon. We're getting to the point where, like, I pretty much, like, straight up love all these movies. Like I said, very strong year for movies. I wish this could have gotten into the top 10. I legitimately think this might be one of the best standalone superhero origin stories ever made. I just think this movie just has such an energy to it. It's so original. I feel like it's a superhero comedy that really just nails the comedy portion. But by the same token, I also think this is a fantastic family movie. It kind of throws me back to like the 80s and 90s family movies. I love all the kids in this movie. I think all the foster kids are just incredible. They bounce well off each other. They bounce really well off each other. I think the action in this movie is strong when it needs to be. It's not over the top or Avengers level, but it doesn't need to be Avengers action. The plot in this movie is pretty simple to follow. It's got some really emotional twists and turns with the main character. I mean, God, I just think this movie does fire on all cylinders, Dragon. And honestly, I don't really have a great reason why it's not higher on the list. I do enjoy it very much. I honestly, Dragon, it's just kind of a matter of the fact that, this year has just been so great for movies that there just happens to be 13 other movies that I enjoyed even more than this one. But let it be known, this is one of my favorite superhero movies of the decade, and certainly one of my favorite standalone, like, origin story superhero movies ever. I mean, I just think this movie just kills the superhero movie, the superhero origin story. I mean, it really is just kind of like up there in that sort of like original Superman in terms of just being an origin story that is just told in such a fresh way that you can just really get behind. Very fresh, very original. I really, really hope that the DCEU does more stuff like this. I like this even more than Joker. And I feel like for as much as Joker succeeds in being like a social commentary, I feel like this succeeds even more in being a family-friendly comedy. So, yeah, really, really high marks to Shazam. Can't recommend it enough. Like I said, the fact that it's number 15 is just kind of like a comment on the quality of the year as a whole, less of a knock on the film itself. All right.
All right, my number 14 then.
Yes.
Marriage Story.
Oh, man.
You said it yourself. We're entering again, if we were already in the creme de la creme at 25. This is what I'm saying. I wanted to rank it higher, but again, we're filling to the brim of capacity of really good stuff here.
All right,
so
you're really not going to like my number 12, Dragon.
I have a feeling. So, Marriage Story, of course, Noah Baumbach's kind of Kramer versus Kramer for the next generation. I like to think of it as. It's this film perfectly captures the ugliness of divorce. Not all the vitriol, mind you. It's not all about the vitriol. It's the complex emotions and choices that are involved. Like, you don't want to be the bad guy at the start of the divorce, but someone's gonna be the bad guy, I'm afraid, by the end of the divorce. And not honestly, both people are gonna be the bad guys by the end of the divorce, but also be salvaged by the end. It's a very fascinating, complex, like, back and forth game of in terms of flip flopping, like who's at fault here. Again, like, we the audience essentially are turned into the kid in the middle of the divorce, seeing one, and that's the most genius thing that Baumbach's doing here. Really is. It's again, as Tiki kind of indoctrinated with a movie that Baumbach had done previously about divorce, Squid and the Whale, or wait, the whale, it's the Squid. It's the Squid and the Whale.
Squid and the Whale. You got
Squid and the Whale, right? Squid and the Whale is a little bit more from the kids' perspective, a little bit more. It was definitely kind of like a research and development movie to get to the Marriage Story. I like to think of it as in watching that movie. So it's good, a little too brutal though. Marriage Story adds the Randy Newman music in there. Softens the blow a little bit, It does. No, seriously though, this Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, they're just given a really raw and honest performance. I mean, raw and honest in all the great ways. I mean, Scarlett Johansson's performance as the fun mom is just heartwarming to me. Just seeing her do little treasure hunts and everything. It's like, oh my god, it's so heartfelt. Like, I'm so on her side. But then, of course, when things go south for Adam Driver's character, it's like, oh my god. Basically, the thing that really hit me with Adam Driver when I was watching the movie the first time, I don't think I've ever told you this. It was, of course, you know me. I love my commentaries. I love the visual commentary for Finding Nemo. We have like all little kind of the commentary stops, and we have like a clip of like some little behind the scenes thing. Remember that?
Yeah.
And of course, my favorite little bit from that commentary, I'm going somewhere with this, believe me, I am, is Andrew Stanton kind of spoke to one of the big influences of Finding Nemo, where basically while he was working on other movies, he kind of took a break and he spent the day with his son. And essentially, he spent the whole day being overprotective. And essentially, the big revelation that he had that translated to Marlin in Finding Nemo was, in stopping to correct the kid at every turn and basically being worried about his safety or being like, no, don't do that, be Mr. No, essentially, you're robbing yourself of every opportunity to be a father. You have every positive opportunity to be a father along the day. And essentially, that's kind of what Adam Driver's playing. That thing really hit me when I was watching. Like, during like the scenes where like they're going like the forced trick or treating, or like obviously the kid's already done enough trick or treating for the day, doesn't want to do it anymore. And it's like, no, we're spending time together. It's like, we're doing this again. He's just robbing himself of the opportunity to be a father, and he's being in the moment there, where it's just like it's all about like, no, you have to. We're doing things together, but he's not really doing things together. That really hit me. And again, like you see, just seeing Driver constant. The thing really so remarkable about Adam Driver's performance is the man is just beaten down in the literal sense, and in the symbolic sense as well, just beaten down at every opportunity. It's so, oh my god, there's tension without being an action movie. There's tension of like, oh god, he punched the wall. Does he cover up the hole in the wall? Does he cover up the hole in the wall? It's seriously, I wish I could rank Marriage Story higher on the list, but honestly, what doesn't help is that it came so late in the month too. It doesn't help. The movies that came out in December are not helping the list making, but it really was it was something special. And Marriage Story is something to behold, and again, an example of excellence in Netflix programming and Netflix doing a movie, and it was great.
All right, my number 13, Dragon. I'm honestly surprised this didn't make my top 10. But I did get a chance to see it in theaters, and honestly, I kind of think that this movie should have gotten a bigger theatrical push than it did, because I feel like seeing it in theaters is the way to go. I've tried to watch it on Netflix, but it just doesn't have the same effect, and that's why it kind of got bumped down a little bit. But still, I got to go with The Irishman. I mean, The Irishman, just very clearly one of the big accomplishments of the year. I really do think this is one of Martin Scorsese's best films in like maybe the past 20 years. I would dare to say I feel like for me personally, it's a little bit of a step up from The Departed. I think that just the way that the film is like kind of like a big meta introspective look at not only the mobster lifestyle, but by extension, Scorsese's own career and getting older and, entering the twilight of your life. And there's just a lot of poetry about the way that this movie wraps itself up in the final act. That's the problem, though, Dragon. This movie is there's a lot of detours in this movie, and there's too many for me to be comfortable ranking it in the top 10, honestly. It's a ride of a movie. It's fantastically edited. I mean, I'd be here, we'd be talking blue in the face about the performances. It's wonderful to see Joe Pesci back.
Pacino.
Yeah, Joe Pesci is playing against type. Pacino is totally playing into his strengths. Like I said, Dragon, I think the main problem here is the runtime. This movie is very self-indulgent. It is very much like... Now, I do think this movie could and should be 3 hours long. I do think that this movie solidly has enough material for a strong 3-act. Each act is a strong hour. But the problem is that extra 30 minutes, when you break it down throughout the movie, is just essentially, in Grand Theft Auto terminology, they're side quests. It's like, there are some side quests in this movie that don't really amount to the overall story all that much. And while I do think that overall this movie is a great picture of the mob, and it's a wonderful outing, it's just got some of the best filmmaking of the year. I don't know, man. I just think from a pacing level, there's something a little off with it, but I do have a lot of respect for it.
All right.
I gotta say, I'm honestly surprised that it looks like it's higher on your list than it is on my list, unless it's also your number 13.
No, it's not my number 13.
All right. What's your number 13?
I have a feeling you're not going to be happy about my number 13, but we'll see. I don't know. Yeah, surprise me with The Irishman. We'll see.
All right.
Number 13 for me is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Yeah, honestly, it's coming up on my list. I understand it's out of your top 10. It's fine.
All right, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. This is another historical film for Tarantino.
Uh-huh.
But it's a real fun inside look at the Hollywood system through an actor and stuntman kind of pair. Through these the perspectives of these two men. Also, it's kind of a great story about the tragedy of the Western star of the '50s. That's kind of a really compelling element of the whole movie for me. Just seeing they have this guy who's, of course, like the Western being kind of phased out and going through a transitional phase from kind of like the TV Western to the spaghetti Western, the whole transitional of the era. How it might be difficult on kind of the old school star.
It's funny, Dragon, because when I first watched the movie, the stuff with him on the movie set was probably the stuff that dragged for me, but now that's the stuff I think about when I think of the movie, because
that was my favorite part from the get-go. Like all that character. I was sold from the interview, man. Just the black and white interview with the store. It's like, okay, I'm in it. And I love old Hollywood when we do that. So this movie was just up my alley. Brad Pitt, of course, he's basically, I think DiCaprio, this is one of his best performances. Maybe not the best, but one of the best for sure. It's up there, man. In a sense, I think you and I are sympathizers. I think you wish he got an Oscar for this over The Revenant. It's like if you get an Oscar for something, if you could pick and choose, well, let's give an Oscar for this, but not for that. If you could be in that position, it's like, yeah, give him the one for Once Upon a Time. It's an actor thing. Give him. But he gives a great performance. Brad Pitt, he's very fun, and he's the most Tarantino-esque element of all. Very conversational Tarantino signature. That's the thing. Like DiCaprio's just doing his thing, man. DiCaprio's just doing his thing. Where Brad Pitt's like, he's absolutely a Tarantino character in every sense. Where he's just like taking his time in scenes. He's walking there. There's a tension. He's like punching the guy in the face to fix the tire. That's Tarantino 101.
Oh yeah.
I mean, honestly, the big drawback for me, the reason this thing I have no qualms putting outside the top 10 is the fact that the weakness of the movie is the Sharon Tate stuff. In that, I wish Sharon Tate stuff. I get there's a payoff to it. Obviously, the payoff's fine. I mean, Margot Robbie in the role, it's solid casting. The problem is we underutilize her. It's like she's nothing beyond setup, and this is the only stuff I really want cut from the movie is like her. It's not bad stuff, mind you. It fits Tarantino's thing in more ways than one. Obviously, the bare feet in the movie theater thing. That's Tarantino. It's Tarantino's dreams. But that's the thing. It's just like we're just wasting time with her watching herself in a movie. It's like, okay, I get we're trying to paint a portrayal here, but you're kind of distracting from the flow you had going on here, Tarantino. I mean, you're doing it basically kind of glorifying the foot thing, right? And that's kind of what it feels like. Mark Sipka had a hilarious thing where he does this character who loves the Wizard of Oz. Tad, I think it's Tad, the character who loves the Wizard of Oz, and basically he did a review of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And he made fun of her feet. It was really funny. Anyway, no, but seriously, this thing, what I love most about this movie, though, I love Tarantino's statement on cults. At the end of this movie, kind of a similar stance. I can't stand cults, man. I don't like them, and I love what Tarantino does with them. At the end here, it's there's a real gutsiness with the ending and what he does there, which is just great. The movie's a lot of fun. It's not Tarantino's finest, but it shows that he has not lost the step. He hasn't lost the step at all, man.
Right. Dragon, we're coming up on 2 hours. I want to pick up the pace here because I want to make this, I don't want this to go over 3 hours. So
it's not going to go over 3 hours, by all means.
Oh, keep it in mind. All
right. Okay.
Okay. My number 12. My number 12 is another 3-hour epic, Dragon. My number 12 is Avengers Endgame. Dragon, I dare you to pull someone into that movie who has not kept up with the MCU. All right. That's why it's not in my top 10. Okay. As a Marvel fan, it's incredible. All right. As someone who keeps up with the movies, it's incredible. But I'm just saying, this is me being a little bit objective here. I like to think of my list as a little bit subjective, a little bit objective. I kind of take some historical context. I take what I personally like. And with Avengers Endgame, it's fucking phenomenal. And I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say about it. And it's an epic culmination of a lot of years of movie making. But man, Dragon, I mean, there's no way that anyone would be able to follow it if they're not caught up. I mean, that being said, let's just quickly, we all know how great this movie is. Of course, this movie's got a really, really solid 3-act structure to it, with Act 1 being the aftermath, Act 2 being the fun time travel stuff, and of course, Act 3 being the melt your face off final battle with some of the coolest moments in all the cinematic history. I'm not going to deny you. I mean, it's just movie theaters across the nation felt more like rock concerts than they did movies that weekend. I mean, it was epic, Dragon. It was truly epic. But like I said, Dragon, outside of the fact that this is truly not a newbie level, it's not an entry level film at all. I do have some issues with it. I think Act 2 goes on maybe a little bit too long. I would cut maybe 1 or 2 of the side plots that we get. Honestly, that's really my only main gripe with it outside of the entry level thing. But like I said, I do think the entry level thing is a big enough issue to get it out just outside of the top 10. But I mean, as a geek movie, Dragon, we all know this is one of the big crowning achievements of the decade in terms of just pure geek culture. So, it literally does not matter where I put this movie on my list, so I'm sure it's going to be very, very high on your list. We'll get there when we get there. All right. Your number 12, Dragon?
My number 12 is Klaus.
Oh, okay. Well, guess what, Dragon? My number 11 is Klaus.
Oh, trippy.
There we go. So we can have a little bit of crossover. We'll talk about Klaus, then we'll talk about your number 11, and then we'll move right into our top 10s. That'll move things along a little bit.
Just don't change over to 11 until we get to my number 11.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so Klaus. I mean, honestly, this is the thing. It was between Klaus and Marriage Story, but I got to tell you, Klaus just has a little extra spin of that magic on it. It's kind of the thing. It's they had a little bit of an edge.
This year was not the greatest year for animated films, and I think Klaus really, I mean, don't get me wrong, it had some good stuff, the sequels were good, Toy Story 4, How to Train Your Dragon 3, both very solid films, but I feel like Klaus just kind of came out towards the end of the year and was just this is how you do it, man. This is exactly the type of stuff that I've
been wanting Disney to do. This sort of like wholly original stuff.
Absolutely. This was, to me, this was the surprise hit of 2019, along with Marriage Story. Basically, December had like two really big surprise hits in those two. That just kind of completely. I know, I know the class was November, but you know what I mean. The ones intended for December.
Uh-huh.
This is a magical Christmas film about the creation of Santa Claus in a fresh and new way. Sergio Pablos has outdone himself again. For the kids out there, a guy who created Despicable Me, but not the Minions. Seriously, everything but the Minions. He did the whole group.
Card.
And he's very forthcoming about it. Says, no, the Minions, can't blame me. He says in a joke, he says in a light way. He's not being like, no, not the Minions. He's like, no, not the Minions. But seriously, they have the animation. Basically, this movie is all about craftsmanship. The craftsmanship as a whole, in regards to the story and the animation style, the movie feels crafted in all the right, in every meaning of the word, in the best sense. It's again, for me, the movie boils down to it. A true act of goodwill sparks another, and that's what the movie is, man. It's like it's what I define as Christmas. Darn it! It's like, yes, seeing it represented a really fun, really good Christmas movie. It's a moving take on Santa Claus. You have likable characters. It's got a pure story, perfect ending. It's just everything.
It's amazing voice work. Jason Schwartzman as well.
Mm-hmm.
A love interest that's actually really likable and relevant to the plot.
Yep. I mean, Tiki, let me put it this way. So rarely in life do we get to see a Christmas classic created, and we got to see one in our lifetime. We got to see one in the last 10 years. We got to see a Christmas classic. I'd argue, too, but let's just focus on this year. We got to see a Christmas classic created before our eyes. That's something special.
Right. And, of course, Dragon, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Jesper!
Jesper!
All right.
Okay, number 11.
I am going to be peeved at the Academy if this movie does not get a nomination for Best Original Animated Film.
They have to nominate it. They gotta.
I'm gonna be peeved. I'm gonna be peeved. All right.
They can't use the Netflix excuse now, given where we're going with Netflix these past couple of years. You know that much.
Okay, with that in mind, Dragon, what's your number 11?
My number 11 is another surprise hit for me. It was Alita Battle Angel.
Yes. I mean, this one didn't get into my main list, but I did enjoy it quite a lot, and it was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I wanted to put it in my top 10, man, I did, but it's jam-packed. Alita Battle Angel, it shocked me how much I loved this movie. It's an anime adaptation that works. Bear in mind, kind of a lame, I have no idea I had no bearing on Alita before going into it, but still, it was, to the layman, I think the layman's kind of going to get the most out. I'm sure you're going to have your diehard anime fans. I think, from what I hear, I think they're pleased. But I heard the people who've read the book say it's pretty well serviced. Again, at least the opening of the book, because it's
that's what I've heard too. I've heard that this is like the people that like this movie really like this movie.
Yeah, and I really get a kick out of this thing. I think Rodriguez did an excellent job on it. Robert Rodriguez did an excellent job on it. Again, this basically the best simple way I could put it is that this is an Avatar I can get behind, given the fact James Cameron was working on this. And in a sense, it's kind of both Avatars because it feels a little Avatar: Last Airbender-esque, the animated show, along with kind of like in terms of your scope and realizing I'm big on an effects film on the big screen, a little bit of the other Avatars. It's kind of a marriage of the two Avatars in a sense.
Oh God.
In the best way. I really love this movie. It's Rose Salazar. She's a great lead. Playing Alita in the title role. She was really compelling. It was the thing that stuck out to me most of the movie. I was basically, this is a world I'm sold on. It's got great visuals. The effects, I would argue, I think they hold up a great deal. The whole movie to me hinges on Christoph Waltz as Dr. Ito. In the story of him finding a surrogate daughter in Alita, and just like the path and the journey they go, and how much Alita evolves and kind of upgrades throughout the course of the movie. It's a very compelling story. I really hope there's more. I mean, best case scenario, the way they're going to go is we have this, then we have a prequel that's going to show you, like, it's going to solve the mystery of where Alita came from. Then we're going to get a sequel that's okay, is where we're going next with it. That's why I heard there might be talk of a prequel. That's why I'm bringing up like doing a prequel instead of a direct sequel. Best case scenario, we get a locked-in trilogy. That will be awesome. No promises there, but yeah. The point being, this movie is sheer awesome, and I would argue, I'll say this much: it's 2019's underdog for me. This is the underdog for 2019.
Oh, I have my own underdog, but that's coming up. That's
Well, I know
coming
you
up.
do. We're gonna get there.
All right. Okay, coming up on my top 10, cracking my top 10. Remember, Klaus was my number 11, so we kind of pulled double duty on that one. Okay, Dragon, my number 10 is a biopic that I liked way more than I thought I would. I kind of went in with sort of very tempered expectations of like, well, the casting's great, but it's probably going to fall into a lot of the biopic tropes. And it really doesn't, Dragon. We're talking A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Man, I mean, just talk about a satisfying framing device. That's the thing that you and I are just raving about with this movie, and it's true. I mean, apart from just all the great model work and miniatures and literally every transition in this movie from location to location is like a trolley or something like that. We get the excellent framing device of this is being framed as an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that Tom Hanks as Mr. Rogers is filming that relate to the themes of the main character in the story. And that's brilliant. It's just a brilliant way to tell the story. I love it. Now, I will say, Dragon, that it's not like this movie doesn't get away scot-free with the, avoiding biopic tropes, because there certainly are tropes here, the estranged father and everything like that. I know it's the true story, I know, but just because it's the true story doesn't mean it's not familiar territory we're going down here. And I mean, it's not like the most groundbreaking or thrilling movie in the world. I don't really think it's a high piece of cinema or anything, but it is a very, very well done biopic. I'm rooting for Tom Hanks to get in there for Best Supporting Actor at the Oscars. I think he definitely, I don't know if he'll win. And so therefore, if he doesn't get nominated, I don't really think I could call it a snub. But I am rooting for him to get nominated. I think he's great. And I do think that this movie is an excellent companion piece to Won't You Be My Neighbor?
That it is. And on an unrelated note, Tom Hanks, he got, in the Golden Globes, he got a Cecil B. DeMille Award.
Nice.
All right.
Okay, your number 10, Dragon.
My number 10 is Spider-Man Far From Home.
All right. This should go by pretty quick.
All right, just again, look, Spider-Man Far From Home, again, basically my number 10 and my number 9 were really, I could easily switch them, but at the end of the day, the Spider-Man Far From Home, it's a great exploration of the MCU in the aftermath of Endgame by Spider-Man, who, of course, is always your man-on-the-ground character. And basically, the thing I found so remarkable, and I found such like a good call with Far From Home, is that it fits perfectly in the John Watts' style of Spider-Man. That Homecoming did a similar thing after Civil War. We have a big event in the MCU, and then we have kind of like, we're processing it through Spider-Man, and we're kind of like have that self-aware MCU effect where you can comment on like the grander MCU and how it would work from the perspective of the only character.
I will always love you.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, we have those touches of like, we're addressing the whole, all the logistical questions. Like, well, how would the blip work? How would, like, if we snapped everyone out and they came back, how would that work? We address those things in this movie because that's what the humor of these Spider-Man movies are, and that's a genius call. Like all the hanging chads from Endgame get addressed here. It's a great epilogue piece for going into Phase 4. It's kind of the best way I could put this. I gotta tell you, we continue to produce excellent Spider-Man villains with Mysterio. Mysterio, of course, the problem is it's a story we all kind of know. We kind of know the story of Mysterio, but it's still great to see it executed as well as it is. And we have like the benefit of Jake Gyllenhaal really bringing it alive in a way where even though we have an idea where it's going, he really just kind of throws you for a loop, even though you know where it is. Again, at the end of the day, though, it's like we're using basically Mysterio uses the anything is possible in phase 4 of the MCU as his for his plan. It's quite genius. It's like, yeah, this is how I can achieve everything. People will believe anything after Endgame. It's such a great fourth wall. He's just like, yeah, I can get away with anything as long as you have a cape and you have a backstory. Everyone's gonna believe anything. Multiverse is literally what we're gonna do in Phase 4. So why not use that to my advantage? So it's genius. Again, for me, the big fan, it's like, yes, the big drawback and the reason it's probably number 10 instead of 9. the drone scene on the bus, man. The drones as an idea it makes sense for Mysterio, but why would Tony Stark give Spider-Man a whole fleet of drones?
Yeah, that's a good point. That whole subplot was a little wonky for me.
I mean, the drones make sense for Quentin Beck. I get that's why the drones are there. The drones make sense in the third act set piece. That's great. It makes sense, but the whole scene on the bus is stupid, and and it's literally like, Tony Stark, why would he give him drones? It just doesn't make sense. It's just anyway. Point being that, and of course, I'm always iffy on the high school humor, which obviously Act One filled chock full of high school humor. It's more of a subjectivity thing, but at the end of the day, the reason it makes the top 10, no question. Mysterio and Spider-Man going up against each other, man, and seeing like those trippy, the thing you've always dreamed of seeing with Mysterio in a Spider-Man movie, like when he fights him in that psychedelic sequence, all those scenes where they go up against each other and have like the snow, basically the snow globe effect with the helmet, like the Marvel Zombie Iron Man, it all comes together, man. And of course, the huge status quo shift at the end that you already mentioned with J.K. Simmons is like, how can you not make the top 10 with something like that? Like the movie was good, and then you blew everything up in the best way possible with like your mid-credits scene. Like, yes, oh god, just great stuff. It was great.
Okay, let's see here. Moving into my number 9, Dragon. My number 9. Things are getting pretty competitive. My number 9 is maybe the most technically impressive movie of the year. I would say it's definitely the most technically impressive movie of the year. Like, as a story, it works. It's compelling enough, but just from a technical level, it's just jaw-dropping. We're talking 1917. I went out of my way to see this in San Francisco just for the point of making sure I could see it to have it on my list. And while it maybe isn't as high up as I was expecting it to be, it is a very damn good film. It's a ride from top to bottom. It's just... Dragon, I mean, apart from just the cinematography, which is just like maybe one of the biggest locks in the history of Oscars, is Roger Deakins winning Best Cinematography for this year. Aside from that, Dragon, the production design is a thing that I cannot get over. I'm going to lay it out for you again. They had to design miles of trench with all the detail and scrap and mud. They had to film it. They had to fill this trench with extras who all had their own blocking and side conversations going on. And then they somehow, within this trench they designed, also had to make sure that they could have the camera follow around the two lead characters in a tracking shot that doesn't cut. Dragon, when I think about that from a technical point of view, my head hurts, all right? Like, man. Now, I will say, this isn't as impressive of a single-take movie as something like Birdman is for me, just because I feel like stylistically the cuts are a little bit more obvious than they were in Birdman. But my God, I don't want to say that the camera work is unimpressive.
Yeah, don't be that guy. Could have been better.
I mean, Jesus Christ, the camera work is impeccable. I'm just saying, you can tell where the cuts are.
Yeah.
And it is a two-man show. It's not a big character piece. I feel like the character stuff that they try to put into the movie, some of it works better than others. I'm not overly attached to either one of these guys, but I feel like they do a good enough job of serving out their role. I can't put it that much higher just because I do think that the technical side of things with this movie almost kind of outweighs everything else. But, I mean, it is an experience, Dragon. I mean, it's certainly going to go down as one of the most technically impressive films of the decade, I think. All righty, Dragon. That gives us to your number 9.
Shazam!
Shazam! All right.
It was a toss up between this and Spider-Man, but I'll keep it
as
simple.
Much as I like Spider-Man, I respect you for going with Shazam.
Yeah, that's the thing. So Shazam, again, Spider-Man could have held his own, but again, that drone stuff really does take kind of a shot out of Spider-Man. But Shazam, Shazam is basically it's nice to see DC on a roll. It's nice to give DC a win, and this year was kind of the winning year for DC for sure. They're embracing the fun. They're on a roll. It's an excellent adaptation of Jeff Johns' story, which basically the whole movie is kind of based on. Zach Levi, he's perfect in the role. Mark Strong made Dr. Sivana cool, which I never thought was possible, but he did. There's a great message of family throughout the course of the film. There's a heartbreaking scene with Billy Batson's mother. It still affects me. Like, oh my God, it's the most heartbreaking scene you've ever seen. Though he gets the reconciliation.
Oh yeah. Oh God.
Yeah. It's
Dragon, one of my best friends from high school was a foster kid, so I definitely have some attachment to this movie for that reason.
I mean, look, this is pretty much all I could ever ask for with a Shazam movie, and I got it. And it's just really nice that the original Captain Marvel beat the new Captain Marvel. I feel it's so satisfying. He lost
Captain
the name,
Marvel,
but
one of the movies that didn't make it onto either of our lists, for the record.
Look, yeah, if it were a top 30 list, it would be number 30, but it would be there. It would be. And again, we didn't make it a top 30. Regardless, point being, I like that the guy who originally had the name beat the one who stole the name. I love that.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Alrighty then, Dragon. That leads us into number 8. Let's see. Number 8 for me. Checking my list here. Oh yes. Okay, number 8. It's not that much higher on the list than where you placed it, Dragon, so I think we're going to kind of repeat a lot of the same points. My number 8 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Once again, Dragon, from a production design point of view, this film just blows me away. Like, everyone's talking about the CG and Endgame and whatever, and I'm just saying, like, how the hell did they clear the freeways in Los Angeles? It's amazing. I mean, that is movie magic unto itself, Dragon. Like, it's a lot of fun because when I go down to Anaheim to visit my SoCal friends, a lot of the roads that get driven down in this movie I've seen before, so I have a lot of attachment there. Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I think Brad Pitt, Leo, they're just a dynamic duo. I love the Tarantino buddy thing, and I think this might be one of the best Tarantino buddy dynamics that we've ever had. I love all the setup and payoff stuff. The flamethrower, Dragon, the effing flamethrower. Oh my God, that's one of my favorite moments in a movie all year. I love the laid back quality of this movie. I think that's one of the things that kind of people are divided on with this movie. Unlike something like The Irishman, I feel like this movie warrants its runtime, and I don't necessarily feel like any scene, like I wouldn't cut any scene in this movie like I would in The Irishman. I feel like in spite of the long runtime, Dragon, with the Margot Robbie thing, you're not wrong with the theater. But I mean, I feel like we need to have that sort of like innocent day in the life of Sharon Tate, and that's what that provides. And we cut away. I'm not a fan of the scene in a vacuum, but I am a fan of how it's used throughout the film. How we keep cutting back to it. I think it's edited into the film very well. And then, of course, like we said, the ending is incredible. Just like we were all wondering if Tarantino was going to go Inglourious Bastards on it, and yeah, he does, and it's glorious.
Yes, yes. I mean, for me, like not many people would agree, but for me, that was even more fulfilling than the Hitler kill. I mean, I gotta.
I kind of agree. I mean, I'm not to say that the Nazi killing.
If we're gonna equate it, killing Hitler is more important, mind you. But the other part, though, I mean, it was more sad.
Well, just the way it's done, man. Just the way, like, I mean, this is gonna sound terrible, but like, I love the way Brad Pitt just does not give a fuck.
Yeah.
You know,
So the way I felt about cults for years, every time I see, like on Riverdale season 3, I did a cult thing and I hated it. You know, that's
I
it's
watched
like
a video about Riverdale recently, and I was like, "Oh my god, how did this happen?"
it goes really crazy. But see, the first you gotta watch season 2 of Riverdale, man. The first 2 seasons are really good, but it's
The
a
title of
CW.
the video is literally something like, "Why is Riverdale's writing so bad?"
You know what's crazy? Just the pattern with all the CW shows, I'm convinced, because all the superhero ones have, is the first 2 seasons are good, then after that we get complicated.
Yeah, seems to be a trend with the CW stuff.
Literally every one, though. That's the crazy thing. They always there's like a anyway. I'm sorry. Yes. Okay.
Okay, you're number 8.
My number 8, Tiki, you might want to like unplug and replug, and you might have like a light issue going on there.
Okay, gotcha.
Light, so it's not okay. Okay. My number 8 is Ford versus Ferrari. So Ford versus Ferrari. This is basically James Mangold. He made a racing. Basically, he made a racing movie compelling. In my view, he has. Like, I haven't been interested
in your humble opinion, and in everyone else's opinion, I'm like the one person on the internet that didn't dig this movie.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I haven't invested. I really don't invest in racing outside the Cars franchise. That's the only time I really am forced to care about racing. You know, it's like the only time. But this thing is, I love. For me, I love the motive behind the race. I love. It all boils down to the simple thing: Ferrari insulted Ford. And basically Ford slashed the American car. That's what fueled the whole race. This whole glorious thing, like where it's about the next generation of racing. No, it's not. It's just because these two guys insulted each other. That's why this whole thing got started. It's not about who's faster but what drives the people in and behind the car. That's the core statement of the movie for me. That's what it's all about. It's not about like who's the faster car. It's not who crosses the finish line first. It's about getting there. It's about like the elbow grease that goes into this whole affair. The manufacturers can't get out of their own way in the process. It's basically business versus kind of like the artistic craftsmanship of the vehicle. That's kind of what it's all about, both racing as well as the construction. Damon and Bale, they're great leads. They have great chemistry. They're Christian Bale specifically. There's Matt Damon. I love the red folder scene. I won't bore you with all the details. The red folder scene is my favorite scene in the movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. I know you have, but you know what I mean. The 20 basically again famously this is like the 24-hour race. I mean it's very tense. It's way better than I imagined. Just going into this movie, I thought it was gonna be kind of a forgettable biopic. It really wasn't for me. It was pure James Mangold. Pure Mangold. Again, it's about bigger things and it's not about the bigger things and the symbols for the future of automotive. It's just about the ego. It's an ego battle of two car makers that our car guys get in the middle of. These two poor guys get in the middle of this big, like these rich men just like yeah, my car's faster. My car's better. It's faster. It's simply that. I love the movie. It's great.
All right. Yeah, for Ford versus Ferrari, I don't want to get too much into it because I really do think it's just the fact that I'm not a car guy, and like a lot of it was just kind of Greek to me with the terminology. I still don't understand exactly what Christian Bale did to make the car go faster. I'm sorry, I'm not into that type of stuff. Christian Bale's great, his arc is great, but it just didn't captivate me. But number 7 on my list is, you got to see this one, man. You really do once you have access to it. It's Jojo Rabbit.
I know, believe me, the minute I can, Tiki, I will, but I want to see it.
Yeah. I would say that I wouldn't be surprised if you end up liking Jojo Rabbit even better than I do, Dragon. Because the thing is, in spite of it being high up on my list, a lot of people that I know have Jojo Rabbit in their top 5. Or
I believe it.
Even as their number 1. And you know what? This is exactly the type of movie that we need right now. I love the social commentary in this movie. Anyone who thinks this movie is controversial or hot button is absolutely missing the point. The whole idea of this movie is like fanaticism. It shows the dangers of fanaticism. But the way that it does it through the lens of this little kid who is, Dragon, this kid is a Nazi bastard, all right? I want to emphasize that. Like, the opening of this scene, the opening scene of the movie, after we get a little bit of establishment of like the Hitler imaginary friends bit, you know, it's a German version of I Want to Hold Your Hand, which is delightful unto itself. But then it's just this kid like running throughout town, hailing Hitler to whoever he can find in town. He's just literally running around town like, "Hail Hitler! Hail Hitler!" Like, this kid is like the biggest Hitler fanboy, Dragon. But it makes the arc of the movie all the more satisfying. And of course, we get the big twist with the Jewish girl. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the actress's name, but she's getting a lot of hype. The actress who plays the Jewish girl in the movie. And that dynamic is really well done, Dragon. It's absolutely the heart of the movie. You see JoJo change and become a better person. Scarlett Johansson has a fantastic role in this movie.
She's the reason I really want to see the movie. Outside
she's great. She's wonderful. Believe it or not, Rebel Wilson actually is funny in this movie.
Oh, get at no! This is a true fantasy. This can't possibly be.
Sam Rockwell is amazing. I love Sam Rockwell's character. He plays this kind of like disgraced German character who's now training the he used to be a badass German soldier and now he's training the kids.
That's funny.
And it's awesome. I love JoJo's little dorky best friend with the glasses. He's adorable.
His Carl Weezer, so to speak.
Yeah. Like he's got kind of like an arc of his own throughout the movie. That's great to follow. And Taika Waititi's Hitler, man, there's such a level of nuance to this performance that it's never going to happen, but I would love if somehow he got nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this. I think he deserves it. Because the way that he plays Hitler in this movie, it's hilarious. Don't get me wrong, Dragon. It's everything that we would have ever wanted from like a ridiculous, wacky, over-the-top version of Hitler. But as the movie goes on, and as the kid gets closer to the Jewish girl and his as his alliances start to shift, I don't want to spoil too much, but Waititi's Hitler, he also starts to shift. And we see the dark side of Hitler through Waititi, and it's great. And this movie does tonal shifts incredibly well. Honestly, Dragon, I would say that there's maybe about 10 minutes that kind of drag a little bit in the middle in the second act. Some back and forth stuff with the kid and the girl that maybe is a little bit repetitive. But other than that, it's a flawless movie, and it just goes to show you how strong this year is. I really wanted to put this in my top 5, and I really think it absolutely deserves a Best Picture nomination. And like I said, it's the type of movie that we as a society and as a culture need to see and need to embrace and need to understand and really think about, and not just write it off because like, oh no, it's Nazis. I can't Nazi imagery. No, it's making a point about Nazis and making a point about fanaticism that's incredibly important and relevant to our time. And it's just a damn fun, entertaining movie on top of all the political stuff. So, yeah. All right, Dragon, you're number 7.
Number 7 is El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie.
You see, I respect this one enough. I liked it a little bit more when I rewatched it. Number 7 of the year. I don't know. I don't know about this.
Fair enough. I mean, look, I love Gilligan going cinematic. 2019 to me seems to be the year of the epilogue. It really seems like. And look, this is Pinkman. This Pinkman on the run, putting everything that he's been through to good use. Through all of Breaking Bad, he's putting everything he's learned, everything he's been through to good use in this movie. We add spokes to the wheel like the Todd flashback without compromising, the end of Breaking Bad. I think we're adding spokes to the wheel in a really good way. again, I loved it. I loved being in the Albuquerque verse and just seeing it kind of done kind of this cinematic way. It's really nice. Of course, Robert Forster's last performance is a great one too. I'm fingers crossed that we're gonna, if we're probably going to acknowledge him. I'd love to see him in Better Call Saul. This probably is going to be the last we're ever going to see of the guy. Jesse, they say the end of the day, it kind of dawned on me. This Jesse Pinkman, it's him earning a happy ending. It's kind of him earning, it's him earning his happy ending the way kind of Walt earned his, in quote unquote happy ending. I mean, he was happy when he was going out, to be fair, so it was kind of a happy ending. Anyway, my point is, like, ultimately, Jesse is facing the biggest question, by the end of this movie. The whole course of the movie is he's facing the big question. Okay, you survived Breaking Bad. What do you want for yourself? Which, very full circly, is the same question Walt is kind of asking himself from episode 1 of Breaking Bad when you think about it. What do you want for yourself? Walt, he's kind of faced with that. Okay, your life's going to end. What do you want to make for yourself? What are you going to do about it? And that's kind of what Jesse's doing in this movie. It's very much Jesse's movie. It's very solid. Again, it's kind of like top tier. Again, based on all the quality that we've had on TV, just kind of brought into kind of like a little bit of a feature length sense. And it was a great taste of what we could hopefully get in the future with more stuff by Vince Gilligan. So I had a great time with it. And again, the fact it didn't tank anything, it didn't make the whole lesser. It was really solid. And I had a great time.
All right, well said. Yeah, Dragon. I mean, to me, it just almost felt a little bit like almost too much of an epilogue, to the point where I didn't really feel a lot of ambition behind it. Like, it really did feel like just a couple of episodes of Breaking Bad. But I mean, it is very satisfying, and it's nice to have a wrap up to Jesse's arc.
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 6, Dragon, this is where, this is where things really get hard to rank here, Dragon.
You don't have to tell me.
I went back and forth a lot on all these. So my number 6 is the 2 hour and 15-minute heart attack known as Uncut Gems.
Oh yeah, I've heard this one's really intense.
It's so intense, Dragon. It's so intense. Honestly, Dragon, I think you'd like this one a little bit better than Good Times. I don't think you'll love it.
Is it like Act 1 of Good Times?
What?
Is it like Act 1 of Good Times?
I mean, it's like the whole thing is just. What did you like about Act 1 of Good Times?
I mean, the whole the robbery, and they're going on, they're hiding, and the whole that first basically on the fly stuff that they're doing in Act 1.
I mean, it's a lot of on the fly stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's very different than Good Time, though. It's a very different movie. It just uses the very similar aesthetic, like the music and the aesthetic choices, the neon, all that stuff is very, very similar to Good Time. It feels almost like an expansion pack to Good Time stylistically. So if you don't like it from a stylistic level, you're not going to get a lot out of it stylistically. But I mean, performance, just goddamn, I love Punch Drunk Love, but this is Adam Sandler's best performance ever, and it's not even really close.
I disagree.
What?
It's a line from the movie. I disagree, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. I was like, what is his best performance then?
No.
Me?
No. I'm saying I thought that was like the main line I've seen of him, like in the clip I saw of him. He says,
"No,
I disagree."
yeah, you're right. That is a clip. Yeah, I mean, Dragon, it's hard to even talk about this movie outside of just it's so anxiety. It's anxiety in the form of a movie. I mean, you're just watching this dude just make a series of horrible decisions, and sometimes he miraculously wins out, but then something else will go wrong. I mean, goddamn, Dragon. The reason why this isn't in my top 5 is simply because there's no one in this movie to root for, really. I mean, by the end of the movie, there's kind of a protagonist outside of Sandler. But Sandler is just a character you want to punch in the face from the get-go, my friend. I mean, he is just in a fun way. I don't want to say in an endearing way, but in a fun way, he's a character you kind of love to hate, But, oh man, I mean, the whole thing is just such a ride. And I gotta say, I was worried about the 2 hour and 15-minute runtime, because Good Time, I feel like, is a lean 90 minutes. But I gotta tell you, man, like sustained anxiety for 2 hours and 15 minutes, absolutely, no question. I mean, I was not bored once during this movie. I was just always just on the edge of my seat. It felt like a quiet place because I was in such suspense. I didn't even want to breathe. Oh, it was a lot of fun.
Right.
All right.
Number
Okay, your
six.
number.
Number 6 is Knives Out.
Okay, well, guess what, Dragon? My number 5 is Knives Out.
Oh my god.
I had a feeling that Knives Out was going to be pretty close on our list.
Yep. Okay, so Knives Out, of
And
course.
I will say that the only reason Knives Out is above Uncut Gems is I feel like the characters in Knives Out are a lot more likable than the ones in Uncut Gems.
I would assume so. Yeah, seriously, Knives Out. Ryan Johnson's bringing back the whodunit mystery proper. It's got an A+ cast. I mean, we just list them all day here, but I mean, Michael Shannon, Chris Evans, Daniel Craig, excellent work.
To me, the two big standouts. I mean, everyone's talking about Daniel Craig for good reason. He's great. Although, honestly, to me, I feel like Daniel Craig is kind of just doing his Lucky Logan character again. So that's why I'm not over the moon about Daniel Craig like some people are. But my two big standouts, Michael Shannon, of course, and then
Ana de Armas. And Ana de Armas, the girl, right?
Well, she's great. She's great, too. She's a great kind of like...
Miss
Cabrera. She's a great breakout role.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say... Oh, shoot. Is it
Plumber?
Leone?
Oh, I think Toni Collette. Is it Toni Collette?
No, Toni Collette. I'm sorry.
I like Téa Leoni, but I don't think that's the one you're thinking of.
I get the two of them confused.
No. I get it. Okay, so Toni Collette.
Yeah, Toni Collette. Toni Collette is a huge standout in Knives Out for me, just because there are definitely people in my family that are like that to a T.
Yeah, me
There's
too.
one aunt in particular where it's like she's been divorced from my uncle for decades, but she is like still like I love her to death, but she is not a blood relative, but she just holds on to this family, and man, I mean, that's the thing, Dre. I think this is the perfect Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah, it is a perfect. You're right. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. Let's see. So, of course, basically, I think that keep it simple. This feels like an old school movie in the best of ways. I mean, it gives you and I kind of like what it would feel like to have seen Clue for the first time in theaters. That's kind of. I had a great theater experience. My friends and I were wondering who done it? We're kind of thinking like, okay, we're really.
Of course, the movie does throw like in true Ryan Johnson style. It subverts some expectations because, boom, like pretty much like towards the start of the second act. It reveals a lot.
It kind of gives you essentially
into the runtime.
Essentially, basically the beginning of I wouldn't call even the end of Act 1. It kind of tells you, okay, well, this person's responsible for the death, and we're going from here. And it's like, okay, well, this is like a different take on the whodunit. Of course, then things are kind of revealed to be okay, a little bit more than that. And it's great. So I remember, like, my friends, at the beginning, we were so dialed into it. It's like, okay, oh, wait a minute, the chessboard fell. That's what made the noise. And that's that sort of stuff. We're like, okay. It's like, where it's at. Anyways, the point is, like, the whole making, like, a crime novelist being the one who can essentially gets killed off, the whole empire of the crime novels allows for a self-aware vibe. There's a lot of great in this movie, man. It's just, it's crazy. It's also crazy in all the right ways.
A little too smug for its own good.
That's what I'm saying. I feel the movie, it's eccentric and crazy in all the right ways, though. It's self-aware, but it's also like we're like the crime novel. Things feel like a little bit, it's a little heightened, but it's just right.
It does kind of like have a look at me, aren't I clever vibe.
It does, but it's kind of earned, though. All right. Okay, number 5 for me, then.
All right. Right. Yeah, number 5, because number 5 for me was Knives Out, so number 5 for you.
Number 5 for me is The Irishman.
Okay, man. I gotta say, your Irishman way higher than I would have expected for you. Props.
Yeah, I do. I love Scorsese movies, man. That's the thing. I mean, Goodfellas and Casino, and point being, I'm in the bag for Scorsese. We don't really talk about Scorsese all that often, but it comes up. But yes, The Irishman, though, definitely an Oscar contender. I feel it has to be an Oscar contender. Scorsese, he's back in a big way, but I always like to make the delineation. The Irishman, it's not just another mob movie. It's not like a straight mob movie. Obviously, the mob plays a big role, and that's the whole point. The whole Hoffa affair. It's kind of Hoffa by association with the mob, and you have like the complexities to get there.
I feel like Joker has more of a tie to like traditional Martin Scorsese mob movies than this one does.
In a sense, but the mob's not really in. I see your point though. There's a Scorsese again. Obviously, King of Comedy is a big early Scorsese vibe though. But yeah. That's the thing. This is, De Niro. Basically, De Niro is kind of the guy bearing witness to the whole Hoffa affair. That's kind of the movie to me. It's kind of less a mob movie, like less hitman in the mob, more about the hitman who's kind of bearing witness. He's caught in the middle of it all. He's the unsung role in the matter essentially of the Hoffa affair. Which it's a big role that he has, but it's a role you don't hear about often. It's a speculated role, which of course is why it's unsung because no one can ever pin down what exactly happened with Hoffa, and of course De Niro plays a big role in that. We have all the Titans. They're all back. And they're all de-age, and it looks great. Pacino, De Niro, and Pesci. Pacino to me is the MVP. I really want Pacino. Not the shade Pesci. He's perfect. He's great in the movie. I'm just saying Pacino really stole it for me. And Pacino is.
I agree with you. Pacino is, I think, the standout, but I feel like it's going to go to Pesci just because of the life achievement factor.
Yeah, and the fact that he kind of semi-retired for a long time, right. And that's I get it.
Has another performance of this quality in him left to give.
He does. So of course, other roles like Bobby Cannavale and Ray Romano. Ray Romano especially. And remember Ray Romano's the connecting point. He brings us to Pesci. Romano's really key in it all there. Point being, like they have small but really memorable roles, and that lawyer scene is great with Romano. And basically, Scorsese's always storytelling at its best has always been about the human experience. That never gets old for me. Like, again, this is like another example of the human experience. Like, as you said better earlier, like, again, it's kind of Scorsese saying a little bit about himself within kind of like, getting, as you age further and further, I kind of look back on things. And, it's remember, it's really hard to top the other Hoffa movie that we had with Hoffa. It's really hard to top it. I would say easily Scorsese did it. He topped Hoffa, man. He did it. That's nothing to sneeze at.
All right, here we go, Dragon. My number 4. I have been championing this movie for a long time now. And I've, throughout the year, I've kind of hoped that it never fell out of my top 10. And it did not. And as a matter of fact, upon further reflection, I just had my appreciation for this movie just grows and grows and grows. I think it's super quotable. I think it's super unique. I love the writing. I'm talking The Art of Self-Defense.
I'm surprised this wasn't your number 1.
No, it's not my number 1. All
right, go on.
Art of Self-Defense with Jesse Eisenberg. This is to me one of the big cult classics of the decade. I really think I'm so glad I caught this in theaters, and I did see it in theaters twice. Because as soon as I saw it the first time, I was like, oh, this is a movie that is not going to be discovered right away, but it will be discovered. The best way I can describe it is it's essentially Fight Club meets Cobra Kai. It's Fight Club in the sense that there's definitely some shady underground stuff going on with this dojo. But it's Cobra Kai in the fact that they're all super intense about it, and it's almost like a religion to them. Oh my god, just Jesse Eisenberg's performance, easily his best performance in Social Network. I love how Eisenberg bookends the decade with this and Social Network, two entirely different but very, very memorable roles for him. I've never heard of the actor who plays the sensei. His name is Alessandro Nivola. But man, this sensei character, Dragon, this guy just owns the screen. Just fucking owns the screen. He is such a magnetic kind of cult leader type personality. And I don't want to get you scared off by the cult leader thing. It's really not a cult movie per se, but it is a movie about getting too deep into your passions. It's almost kind of like a bizarre sort of wonky Terry Gilliam Whiplash. Yeah, it's totally unique, Dragon. It's totally unique. I mean, I say the Fight Club, Cobra Kai, just because it's, those are the two things that I can kind of use as ingredients to compare it to. But it is just inherently its own thing. Not nearly enough people are talking about. I haven't seen anyone talking about this, and it has just remained up there for me. I eat this movie up. I love the quotes. I love the rule structure within the dojo and how that comes into play through the story. The hierarchy. It's all fascinating to me. And I love all the payoffs. I think this movie's got some really great laugh out loud moments, but also some really intense moments of suspense. The dynamic between Eisenberg's character and the sensei is a wonderful kind of cat and mouse sort of dynamic. Just fantastic, just great movie all around. I can't recommend it enough. I hope more people check it out. I really do hope this becomes a cult classic because to me it already is. Yeah. All right.
Okay, number 4.
Sorry. Yeah, you're number 4. Go ahead.
Joker.
All right.
So basically, it's a beautiful tragedy unfolding before our eyes. Todd Phillips, he delivered on the promising trailers that we got of a very questionable premise, because so many people are like, we don't need an origin, we like the mystery, we don't want to see this. And of course, I think we're all part of this too. We don't need an origin, but of course, do we really want to know where he comes from? But I got to tell you, it's again, basically, the greatest idea we have in the movie essentially is, what if we kind of coded with a whole one bad day vibe, and that one bad day drove him off the deep end, so you kind of service that, but also the greater one bad day is that there's an unreliable narrator element of it all, so we kind of service both elements of the idea there, which is really clever throughout the course of the movie. So we keep the mystery alive, but we also kind of give you an answer to things, but you're never quite sure. It's I love that Gotham is creating its greatest monster before its hero, which is really interesting. Phoenix, he delivered big time in all the right ways. Again, he's been getting a lot of attention for, won a Golden Globe while we're recording this very podcast. Third act, the reason that it's over The Irishman for me, it's the reason it's so high up is that the third act was the most intense experience for me in 2019. Maybe second to another movie, but it was one of the most legitimately intense. I don't know if I was going to live to the end of the movie intense. Of 2019 with the big interview scene, let's call it, and all the chaos that falls into place. It's kind of it's a beautiful tragedy unfolding before your eyes, and it's like, oh my god, it's just like you're on the edge of your seat, like, oh god, is he going to do the thing? Is he going to do the thing? Are we going to go the full Dark Knight Returns? It's like that question while you're sitting in the theater. It's like, oh, it just keeps going. They keep drawing it out. It's basically the movie made us all bear witness to his becoming in a really haunting way. So that's the best thing I can say about Joker. It was definitely it's one that sticks in the memory. It's one to go to. One you definitely want to rewatch. It's fascinating. It's not gratuitous, but it's haunting.
All right. Okay. Well said. All right, man, Dragon. This is the one I'm personally surprised didn't make my number 1, all right? And I was thinking long and hard, man. Oh, God, it went back and forth. I will say my number 2 was always going to be number 2 just because I saw my number 3 and my number 1 on the same weekend, and I really didn't want to just be like, they're both number 1, number 2. But, man, I went back and forth. I went back and forth on which one, because that weekend in October where I saw both of these movies, man, it was an exciting time to be a film fan, and it's some of the most refreshing and original films I've seen this decade. But, I'm still unsure, but I'm going to have to go with Parasite as my number 3.
Okay.
Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho. This is a South Korean film with subtitles and everything. So, yeah, you're going to have to invest in that. But, man, it's worth it. I think Parasite is just, an incredibly socially relevant movie. I don't really want to describe a lot of the plot because I feel like the joy of this film is to go in not knowing a lot about it. But I guess the quick elevator pitch is that a family that is very, very low off and poverty-stricken finds a way to assimilate into a rich family's household with disastrous consequences along the way. It's a con artist game. It's a heist movie. It's a comedy. It's a horror movie. It's a thriller. It's a capacity movie. All at the same time. It expertly just blends genres and styles and tones. It definitely makes me want to look into more South Korean cinema because, man, this is just some compelling stuff. But like I said, I keep getting drawn back into that social relevancy, Dragon. I feel like people compare this movie to Joker a lot for a reason, because both movies feature characters that are very much on the low end of society. They are the people that society has pretty much forgotten about. These people, this family at the start of the movie, are trying to make ends meet by folding pizza boxes, and the person giving them shit money for that is like scolding them about the stupid way in which they fold the pizza boxes. It's like this family has nothing but wits and cunning about them. They do not have good luck in life, but they have brains. They have intellect. They know how to maneuver their way through a situation. And some people are mixed on the ending of Parasite. I personally love it. I think it's haunting. I think it stays with you for days. I highly recommend you check this one out, Dragon. It's one a lot of people are going to be talking about. I almost guarantee you it's going to be nominated for Best Picture. I mean, it's a shoo-in to win Best Foreign Language Film, of course, but I think it's going to be nominated for Best Picture overall. And I think it deserves to be nominated for Best Picture. It's one of the best films of the decade for me. I can't speak highly about it enough. Honestly, with this top three, it's so tough. I mean, it could be number two. But like I said, I didn't want to have my number one and number two be movies I saw on the same weekend. And yeah, I mean, it just blows me away. I will say, Dragon, you're not my number one, and I think you can probably guess what my number one is at this point by deduction.
Yeah.
You would not like my number one. My number one is a me movie, all right? My number one is a Tiki movie. It is not a Dragon movie. It is not a general public movie. It is a Tiki movie. But Dragon, I think my number three, I think Parasite is it's a movie with a lot more broad appeal to it, and I think you would dig it. Having said that, Dragon, honestly, the broad appeal thing, this is going to sound super pretentious, but on a list where it is my favorites above anything else, the broad appeal thing is probably why it's at my number three and not my number one, because everyone is digging on this movie, and there's some people digging on my number one, including Chris Stuckman, but not enough. So we'll get there when we get there. I think you can pretty much size up what the rest of my list is going to be. What's your number three, Dragon?
My number three is A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
Damn it! I was so rooting for this to be above Toy Story or Adventures. Fair enough. Solid.
It's getting tough. It's the top five. It's getting hard to rank.
Solid. I'm happy with how high this made it, Dragon. All right, but I was rooting because I'm sorry, Dragon, but I knew from the beginning of this. Let's not play charades here. We all knew your top two was going to be Avengers and Toy Story. So I don't know. It would have been nice to have a little bit of the surprise. I mean, obviously, in game probably your number one, but maybe make. Anyways, go ahead.
Sorry. So this is the feel good movie of the year for sure. Honors everything Fred Rogers was about. I just say give Tom Hanks the Oscar. Give it to him now. I mean, delivered two excellent performances this year. Give it to him for this. Come on.
And he also had an adorable interaction with Big Bird.
That's what I'm saying. Give him the Oscar, man. Anyway, so, but yeah, of course, the framing device is where it all comes alive from the very start. Hanks and Matthew Rhys. I think Matthew Rhys is kind of the underdog in the movie because everyone's talking about Hanks, and Hanks is great, but seriously, Matthew Rhys is really good in the movie. The beautiful things they have, I know they're in the movie, basically you have scenes where Rhys is in the same room as Hanks, but They have 3 sit-down interview scenes. 3. It's amazing. Each act has a major interaction between the 3 of them. That's the majority of it. Otherwise, it's kind of them in each other's lives in some sense, but it's usually not a conversation. It's built upon these three interview scenes. Again, Matthew Reeves, I love the humanity of Lloyd Vogel really struck me to my core. Man, I saw a lot of myself in Lloyd Vogel, and that really hit me. And those unspoken moments communicated so much. It's a movie about forgiveness in the greatest sense of it. It's everything I could have hoped for and more. With a movie that's kind of all about bringing out the best in ourselves. It's a biopic where the subject was too humble to be the focus. With that whole it's not a traditional biopic, and yes, in the sense of it's a biopic where your subject is the supporting player. So, yeah, there's something to be said for that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, we've already kind of gone down the rabbit hole of weird things this movie has in common with Saving Mr. Banks.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now on to my number 2. This should go by pretty fast because we've already talked about it. My number 2 is Marriage Story.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Dragon, of course, we've been talking about movies that give you a heart attack from anxiety, and honestly, Marriage Story is up there, man. In a couple key scenes. I mean, of course, everyone talks about the fight. But Dragon, I think the most suspenseful scene in the movie is the social worker visit, man.
Yes, I know it, man. I got you. Yeah.
Just from top to bottom, just from the moment that she enters the house to the moment that he fucking cuts himself.
That hole in the wall, man. That hole in the wall.
Oh my god, it's so cringe. It's so cringe in the most compelling way.
Him laying on the floor afterwards. That's what gets me. Like, oh god, he's just so defeated.
And like you already said, Dragon, I think this movie just expertly does not pick a side. That is one of the most impressive things about it to me. Like, I feel like both people are equally at fault and equally innocent. I mean, it's just like, I love the screenplay for that reason. I think writing-wise, this is the best screenplay of the year. I mean, I really do. I think every element of this screenplay, every little thing that they could, pay off, they wrap up. They tie together. Like the shoes get tied at the end. It's all symbolic, I mean, goddamn, I love how this movie is so harrowing, and yet you're left with a positive outlook by the end of it. I mean, I love the ending of it. Noah Baumbach has a way with me in terms of ending his movies. The Squid and the Whale is also another movie ending that I love. And I mean, I just think Adam Driver is just a fucking iconic actor at this point. I love the work the man does, and I can't wait to see more of him. Scarlett Johansson, of course, she's been a proven face in the industry for a long time now, and this is just like her just being the industry pro that she is with this role. And, it's even great to see Wallace Shawn pop up, kind of like he feels like he's out of his My Dinner with Andre days with all the theater stuff. That's delightful. And then, of course, the lawyers, man. Alan Alda, Ray Liotta, Laura Dern redeeming herself from Last Jedi.
Yeah, she does. She's very cutthroat, though, but yes.
One of my favorite scenes is when they're in the middle of the really intense negotiation, and then they break for lunch, and Laura Dern is just all casually, recommending sandwiches and shit. It's, so two-faced.
Yep.
Yeah, just excellent writing, terrific performances. Randy Newman's score is chipper and is kind of like a great sort of tone balance to some of the depressing stuff going on. It's just a fantastic movie. It really is. And I would say it is the best Netflix original movie that the studio's ever done.
That's fair. I might be able to get behind that.
All right, Dragon. We know what your top 2 are.
But what made your number one? That is the question.
So I definitely went back and forth on the ranking of these two, as you can probably imagine. And oddly enough, both 4 movies.
Right.
Again, I told you, year of the epilogue, man. Year of the epilogue, year of the sequel, yet again. So, year of the 4 as well. Okay, seriously, number 2 for me is Toy Story 4.
Okay.
It was tough, man. It was really tough, though, because I've rewatched the top 2 movies so many times this year, I can't tell you. But seriously, this is the movie. The Toy Story 4 is the
about Toy Story 4, when all is said and done, is that it has a reason for existing. It had a story to tell.
Yeah. Again, Toy Story 4, it's the movie no one thought had a chance with the title and the spork. It's like, they're out of their minds. This is never going to work. I mean, I had faith in him, but I was sweating bullets days up to the premiere as I trying to take my mind off it, man. I was like, oh god, what if they did like the thing they literally joked about in that Muppet movie, man, like doing a Toy Story 4. Oh god, what if it goes belly up? I was nervous, but it was a beautiful epilogue, man. It's a great conclusion of Woody's story. Again, for me, the whole movie is just Operation Pull Toys when they had me. Is that the RC of it all, man? Just like it's like everything.
RC.
Is that opening scene just, it had me so much. Like, I was already sold on the movie. It's like, I don't know why I ever sweated a single bullet. They got it, man. They got it. It's like that. We got an existential crisis from a spork, and they somehow they pulled it off. It's the animation's at its peak. It's like asking the logical question for parents, like, what do you do after you've outlived your purpose? The whole empty nest syndrome of it all. It's raising the really intelligent question of, what if Bonnie wasn't necessarily the best fit for Woody? What if she grew out of it, as kids tend to do with toys? What if Woody? What if Woody wasn't sure about his choice in Toy Story 3 now at this point in life? These are fascinating questions you never thought in a million years they'd ask. They could have kept it. It's like they went back to the well and they had something there. All the new characters are delightful, and the ending was as perfect as it gets, man. It's like the line that is said in all the movies is said, and it's like it's beautiful. The swell of the music, it's perfect, man. It's beautiful. I love it.
It did get me crying some pretty heavy man tears. Right?
That's what I'm saying. It's like when I just hear that music, da, 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 she was like, when they start off this, oh god, it's so gorgeous. Oh, seriously, that's what I'm saying. Okay, go on.
All right, the moment has finally come. My number one. This movie to me is pure cinema. This isn't just my number one of the year. This has a very high chance of being one of my tops of the decade. It's just incredibly visceral. The production design, the sound, the editing, the cinematography, it all just works so well with each other. I think it's a shame that it's not being looked at for more technical awards. On top of the 2 performances that are just towering achievements of acting, I got to go with The Lighthouse as my number one, man. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I was stoked for this movie as soon as I saw the trailer for it, and it lived up to my expectations and then some. I saw it twice in theaters, and it's one of those movies that just stuck with me, Dragon. It stuck with me. It's in my head right up here. I don't think I'll ever forget this movie. Just the striking black and white, the waves crashing against the lighthouse, the constant roar of the foghorn drilling into the psychosis of the characters as it drills into your own psychosis. The fog, I mean, God, it's so atmospheric, Dragon, that you could just take a big bite out of the atmosphere in any shot in this movie. I am so excited to see what this director does next. This director, Robert Eger, he did The Witch, which was very good movie, very solid start, very solid foundation. I feel like this movie's a lot more accessible than The Witch is. I mean, don't get me wrong, this movie's not very accessible. I don't think Dragon would like it at all. But for me, man, as a fan of horror and
I've seen the horror movie genre kind of blossom over the past decade. It's gotten into this great place where when the decade started, we were all doing like, Paranormal Activity 4 or whatever the fuck. And by the time the decade's over, we get all this great A24 movies, and this to me is just the culmination of all that. It's the culmination of the horror genre being an art form in its own right. This is like one of the most artistic films of the decade. I mean, it is so interpretive. That's another thing I love about it. It just like, there's a certain point where you just completely lose track of all sense of time in a very deliberate way, and it just leaves you guessing on what you're watching, if what you're watching is real or not. I mean, it just gets into your head. Of course, like I said, Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson are just on another level. To me, their acting reminds me of the type of acting that we saw in There Will Be Blood back in 2007. I think There Will Be Blood is the best movie of the 2000s. That is my number one of the 2000s. And so, I mean, it's spectacular, man. It just, like, everything about it. And Dragon, like, if you're worried about it for the horror movie elements, don't be. It's not really a horror movie at all. It's only a horror movie in, like, the psychological sense. There's no real jump scares or anything like that. There's no real gore either. It's purely psychological. But man, it gets in your head so much, and it burrows itself in there, and it will not let go. Chris Stuckman also has this listed as his number one of the year, and I could not agree more with him. This, to me, this isn't the people's movie, but it is an artist's movie, my friend. All right, this is just for people who take film as seriously as I do and look at it as a strictly artistic medium and look at the potential of what can be done with the medium of film. The Lighthouse is going to be one of those movies that I'm going to remember seeing in theaters, and I think it's going to have an influence. I mean, I if anything else, it might bring black and white movies back into relevancy, because goddamn, the black and white in this movie is just visually striking. The aspect ratio is striking. I mean, I could just go on and on and on and on about just everything I love about this movie. Like I said, the two leads are just incredibly dynamic off of each other. Yeah, not the most commercially viable number one pick, I'll admit. But, man, no movie in 2019 made me more excited to be a fan of film than The Lighthouse did. So that's why it's got to be my number one. All right, Dragon, and your number one. Let me guess. Was it, God, I can't even wager a funny guess. We all know what it is. Go ahead and say it.
Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, I had it situated in the center of your thumbnail for a reason.
Yeah, that was a good call. All right. It's Avengers Endgame. Of course, Infinity War is very much the setup. This was the payoff. This was very much the whole ball game, as it were. It's three great movies for the price of one with the three acts that we have. It's everything was serviced just right with all of our characters in this movie. Just really, so much that you're so wrapped into it. Like 3 hours goes by like that. It's just you're so tuned into the mission of like, we're gonna undo the snap. It's like this epic. It's like the ultimate save, man. I love when heroes save you. This is the ultimate savior quest, as it were, man. We're gonna bring half the population all over the place back. I love how it reflects on, it's kind of, this one, obviously, we're kind of, Act 2 especially, we're reflecting on kind of how far we've come in 10 years of the MCU, reflecting on how far we've come. We bask in the fun, we weep at the sacrifice, we pump our fist in the air at those moments of sheer awesomeness, like Cap catching the hammer. It's at the end of the day, I'll keep it simple. I mean, look, there's so much good in this movie. We're going to be here for like a long time, but I'm going to keep it simple. I mean, the arc of the big payoff of the movie, the arc of Tony Stark and Steve Rogers, kind of brought to a tearful conclusion. It's this epic finale. It's they were the conclusion to those arcs were the highlight of 2019 for me. It was just seeing the journey end and seeing it end so beautifully. Tony Stark became part of a bigger universe and saved it. He saved the bigger universe that he became a part of. Everyone, literally, my favorite bit of the whole movie. The movie can be summed up in 2 words: Avengers, assemble. It comes together. That bigger universe comes to the rescue, and Steve Rogers got to put the shield down. He got to hand the shield off, more accurately, and dance with the girl of his dreams. That was essentially a dance 80 years in the making. 80 years later, he got to dance with the girl of his dreams and settle down and got to have the life that he never thought he was going to have. Dancing to one of my favorite bits in Winter Soldier. Not the favorite bit, but like the old the song that's playing when Nick Fury comes visiting him. And what's so great about that is the fact that the song that he's listening to is the song that he wanted to dance to her with. And that's the last musical note we have in the entire MCU and in all of Phase 3. It's I'm head over heels for this movie, and how can I not put this movie at number 1? It's between this and Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 broke me emotionally, but then again, I was literally reflecting over the greatest parts of Endgame. It's like, how can I not put this at number 1 with all the I am Iron Man, Cap with the hammers, knocking Thanos around. It's beautiful. Easily the best of 2019 for me. Just an enduring. It's an epic, and I rarely do I like to use the word epic, but it absolutely, in every sense of the word, it's an epic, man, in the best way.
Yeah, it's very good, very good. Like I said, Dragon, obviously, I just kind of had that thing of I can't show my mom this movie for the life of me. I can't show my grandma this movie for the life of me. It's like, this movie is not entry-level friendly. It's really not, and that's what kept it out of the top 10 for me. But, man, everything you laid out is accurate. I mean, it's funny, Dragon, because the same things can be said about The Lighthouse. It's like, The Lighthouse is not a movie my mother would enjoy.
It's just, I can't try not to bring the really your point, but I'm showing everyone this movie. My grandmother and my mother. My mother is really out of touch with them, but she's my father's probably forgotten all the continuity. He loves Iron Man. He got to get out of this. People
right.
surface level.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm telling you, man. I'm saying we use the old my mother excuse. I'm just saying.
All right.
Oh, but I hear your point, though. I hear your point. It's not maybe not for everyone. An entry level capacity.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm just anxious to get this over with.
Oh, yeah, sure. Go on.
Everyone my house is asleep. And
we made it to the end.
That is 2019 in a nutshell, folks. A lot of controversy, a lot of upsets. Would you like to list off your top 10 one more time, Dragon, just for reference sake?
Okay, just for reference sake. Number 10, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 9, are we going back and forth? Am I just listing them all off?
Just list them all off, and then I'll
Okay. Number 10, Spider-Man Far From Home. Number 9, Shazam! Number 8, Ford versus Ferrari. Number 7, El Camino, Breaking Bad movie. Number 6, Knives Out. Number 5, The Irishman. Number 4, Joker. Number 3, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Number 2, Toy Story 4. And number 1, Avengers Endgame, or by another name, Avengers Assemble. No, Avengers Endgame. All
right. For me, number 10, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. Number 9, 1917. Number 8, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Number 7, Jojo Rabbit. Number 6, Uncut Gems. Number 5, Knives Out. Number 4, The Art of Self-Defense. Number 3, Parasite. Number 2, Marriage Story. And, of course, number 1, The Lighthouse. Fantastic year for movies. I think one of the cool things about this year, Dragon, that I think both our lists kind of reflect is the fact that both mainstream blockbusters and the Oscar movies were both just fantastic in their own right. And so for that reason, I just think 2019 was really exciting, and I'm honestly kind of dreading 2020, following it, because I don't know if 2020 can live up to it, Dragon. I really don't.
Oh, I guess there's only one way to find out. Let's watch some movies.
All right. So in the meantime, folks, we have got a couple other best of the decade things for you. Coming soon, we're going to do a Disney debates on the best Disney stuff of the decade. We still need to iron out the questions there, but that should be happening sooner rather than later. And then we will be starting, I'm not sure how many of these we're going to get through this month, but we're going to be starting a 5-part series on our top 100 movies of the decade. We're not going to do that all in one go. We're going to split that up into 5-part installment with 20 films each. So, so 100 through 80 is going to be our first, and then 79 through 51. You get the idea. Or, I'm sorry, 79 through 61. I'm not explaining this
Okay,
well.
the point being is just it's 20 a pop, folks. You get it. Okay,
20 a pop. 20 a pop, yeah. So, all right. Dragon, any last words?
Nope, it's just, folks. It's been, we capped off the decade proper. We're going very optimistic into 2020, and there's going to be a lot of movie talk going forward. But 2019 was a solid year, folks, and thanks for listening to us blather on endlessly about it.
Dragon, I've got just one question for you, Dragon. All right, you ready? Just one question.
All right.
I don't know if I've ever asked you a more serious question, Dragon. You ready?
I think I know what this is, but go on.
Dragon, why'd you have to go and spill your beans?